am the Rat, and this is the Rat's Nest. We're here today to celebrate a very special anniversary, the 1-year anniversary of this channel. It's weird to think that I've been doing it for a year. At the same time, it feels right. At another time, it feels like it's already been a year. It's a little bit odd. So this video that Kyle and I have recorded, we recapped the Season 1 of Mushoku Tensei, get ready for Season 2. And while we were recording, I was thinking, this should make for a really good 1-year anniversary, because I'd been thinking of it. I didn't really know what video I was going to do for that. And I was like, well, a 2.5 hour deep dive, not really a deep dive, but a general overview, really, of my favorite series with one of my good friends. I can't really think of anything more worthwhile than that. Mushoku Tensei is my favorite series, and 2.5 hours is a long time. Really, I didn't get to talk as in depth about it as like I could, but you guys will see all that in the video. So I just wanted to record this little intro thing to put in front of it, because this wasn't the initial intention when recording it, so I didn't mention it, but I wanted to mention it here. Thank you all for a year, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of this video. Hello everyone, and welcome to another anime review. I am the Rat, and this is the Rat's Nest. I'm joined as always by Kyle. Say hi, Kyle.
Hi everyone.
Today, we are discussing a series that I am a little bit of a fan of.
Just a wee bit. Just
Just
throwing it up there. What if it's your favorite series?
Let's
What if it's
just
your favorite
Let's just
series?
throw it up in the air.
What if it's
My
your
favorite
favorite
series, Kyle, is Mushoku Tensei, otherwise known as Jobless Reincarnation, if you hate fun. Mushoku Tensei.
Yeah.
This series is pretty darn good, in my opinion, to understate it a tiny bit. To understate my opinion the tiniest little bit. And today, Kyle and I are discussing it. So, to give the quick background before we go through it, Season 2 is coming out tomorrow as of the time of recording.
Nice.
I believe that I'm going to edit this video after we record and post it tomorrow because it seems topical. But Season 2 starts tomorrow. I believe I know what the first episode is going to cover. I think I heard someone say somewhere. And so, because Season 2 is going to start, obviously I'm a little bit excited for it. Kyle, I got to watch Mushoku Tensei a while back because we traded. I watched Jujutsu Kaisen. He watched Mushoku Tensei, and he enjoyed it. He enjoyed it pretty good. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth. He was like, yeah, it's a pretty good series.
Yeah, I liked it. I'm explaining what I thought now, but at the time, it's one of those where when I first watched it was like, oh, okay, this was a good series. Like I didn't, so it wasn't like my top 10, but it was like my bottom 10 either. I don't even know if I have bottom 10, but like that aside, like I watched it, I enjoyed the series, and then Season 2 is coming out, and to explain this much, I really don't go back and rewatch those types of shows. Like if I like a show, like like if I really love it, like I'll go back and rewatch it. So Brandon wanted to start doing like weekly reviews of the anime for Season 2 of Mushoku Tensei. So we wanted to go back, rewatch it, just so I'd have proper knowledge of it all. I was like, okay, sure. Upon rewatching it, I wasn't like, I didn't think I was going to be bored, but like I didn't think I didn't have as much fun. No, I really enjoyed the second viewing of it. When you go back and review something or rewatch it like a second time, you get to pay attention to a lot more details, and I feel like I have more, I have a better way of wording things now. I have more of my thoughts in order, and I really, really enjoy this series, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, so with our little introduction out of the way, Kyle, would you like to give me your thoughts on the little intro arc of everything in Buena Village, including him being reincarnated with Roxy, with Sylphie, and then funny Paul.
I obviously, it's not like I never stood in the mirror being like, all right, what am I going to say verbatim? Never. This is just, I say that to say, like, a lot of this is just going to be sort of off the top of my head, so sorry if it's a bit scattered, but on the whole, okay, well, in Isekai, right, one of my main issues with it, and this goes for a lot of them, and this is the granddaddy one, so I know there's stuff there, but the issue with a lot of Isekai I have is when characters are killed and reincarnated, or if they're teleported to another world, there's ultimately not much of it other than it's an inciting incident just to get them into this fantasy place, and there's not really much else explored from it. I hate it, right? I hate it when characters are isekai'd and then nothing of their original world is ever brought up.
Yeah.
And that's why I really love this one, just because of how prominent throughout the entire series, even up through like the last episode 23, like him being from the other world and like that first life that he lived, it plays such a huge role here. Because I don't think this is too controversial to say, and we have to address some what the fan base thinks when I say this, but the whole point of this series that it sets up in this intro arc is that people can change. A simple 3-word explanation for it. People can change. And Rudeus, his real name from the other world was never explained, right?
Yeah, I have no clue what it is.
Okay, yeah. So like Rudeus in his previous life, he was not a good person. Like they start that off, they kind of hammer that in pretty strongly, where he's a shut-in NEET. He's just masturbating all over the place. He's recreating the Part 6 cum room in his room. He's just not a great person. Uh-huh. And then we see him get kicked out. And then in the final moments of his kind of like jobless life, just being like a bum, he decides to give it up to save some people. And I thought that, hey, that was pretty touching to see. And I like that someone like that has been given a second chance. Because, some people need pushes and stronger pushes than others, but I believe people can change. You give them a big enough reason to, people can change. And so this was a good setup for it, where we see he gets in this world and he's put in this environment where we get to see him from the very start of life up through, no further. I know it's further, but like up through even season 1, like you get to see just how different Rudeus becomes, being given a second chance like that, because some people are denied second chances. And I love Rudeus as a protagonist. Just starting out, right? If someone were to watch it starting out, you might think it's a typical Chosen One kind of isekai thing. Because it's sort of misleading in how it approaches it, and I kind of like that, where he's born to this world. He's the only one that can do incantationless magic. He's at such a young age, he's set up to be like a Saint class water mage. It was when he was like 5, when it was like Saint class or something. Saint
class at 5.
At 5, yes, like that is crazy, right? Like that is absolutely insane. That because Saint's the 4th, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's halfway through like the tiering of strength. Like he's by the age of 5 already passed that up. And in a little bit of this arc, we get to see how some of that previous plagues him, and we also get to see the other side of the story, because he wasn't just a shitty, awful person through his own choice. It was just that through being bullied and tormented at his school and never taking action to change, that's what led him to be afraid of the outside world and corner himself and shut himself away from it. He denied the outside world, and I like how Rudeus in this world is learning to embrace it through having good people in his life. Well, okay, I can't say good people. Funny Paul.
Paul he tries his best. We can talk on Paul.
Yeah. So, because the few things that happen here, right? He's born into this world. He gets tutored by Roxy, and then after getting tutored by Roxy, there's not too much to say on that. I like that arc just because I like Roxy, and we'll talk more about her later. The first big thing of note to discuss in terms of what happens in the arcs is there are 2 things, right? When he meets Sylphie, and I really like the scene where Paul gets mad at him and hits him, and he's just a smartass about it, because he's absolutely in the right.
Oh yeah.
What he did to protect Sylphie was right. It's just that someone lied, and Paul just jumped the gun, and he refused to believe his own son. And I sure love the character drama between these 2 right now. I sure hope it doesn't blow up later into one of the best moments in the entire series.
That's crazy. Paul and Rudeus interacting.
Yeah, it'd be crazy if they interacted in an argument. And then Paul cheating on his wife Zenith with the maid Lilia. And that's another thing with Mushoku Tensei that I really enjoy. Because I like it when a lot of other characters in a series are different interpretations or reflections of the main character. And Rudeus from his previous life is not a good person, and it's him on his journey of growth. We see how other people are not good in their own rights. Everyone varies in their spectrum of how morally good they are, how morally bad, how they are as people. And we see that Paul, he's just a young guy trying to take care of his kid, right? He's just trying his best. But he cheated on his wife. But he still loves his family. And that's what he did obviously isn't right. But there's more to it than just one side of the argument. There's 2 sides to it. and it's sort of that little middle ground that Paul has, to where it's like, man, Paul's more of a deeper, complex character than you'd assume at a surface level glance.
Yeah, no, definitely. I love Paul, right?
Paul's great.
In my personal rankings of characters, if you remember, Kyle, Paul is my third favorite character in all of Mushoku Tensei.
Completely understandable.
Those of us who have finished the series, I know everything. I've read all the web novels. I've read Redundancy. I've read Oblige. I've read Old Dragon's Tale. I've read everything, right? Paul's my third favorite character, right? I think we can all. I think everyone who knows, right?
Yeah.
I think that one of Paul's most charming things is how, yeah, he is a womanizer, right? He did cheat on his wife a little bit.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he loves his family. He genuinely tries very hard for them. You know, that there's more to him than that. And, you know, and it's the question of, at what point is he redeemed from that? Right? He made a mistake, right? But at the same time, he also took complete responsibility. He took in Lilia as his wife. He took care of Aisha as a father. You know, after they were reunited, you know, he's still going to take care of them, right?
And that's sorry. Keep going. I had a thought.
He genuinely loves his family. You know, he has weak willpower, right? It's in his blood. He failed to hold himself back. But at his core, he's a really good guy who just genuinely is trying his best to be the best father and man that he can.
And what you said about redemption, there's something I want to bring up. One of my favorite things in redemption stories, and I mean, you know the obvious one, I really like it in redemption stories when they plan, like, my favorite type of redemption is when characters decide to do the right thing, like just because they want to do the right thing, not because they're doing it to appease others. Like, regardless of whether or not the people you've done wrong are going to forgive you, you're going to do the right thing, and that's what Paul reflects. And it's like, damn, like that. You know, he made a mistake, but like that's a good type of redemption where you like, he, you know, even if Zenith said like, I'll never forgive you, and she never did, he would still do exactly what he needed to. Just that's the type of person he is. He would provide for Zenith and do everything for her, even if Zenith never forgave him. And I respect that about Paul, even though he did make that initial mistake.
You know, it's complex. He's a complex character.
I mean, I know this is a whole nother beast, but like, people make mistakes and go to jail in our world, and they come out, and it's like, there's the whole thing of like, are they redeemed? Like, what is true redemption? You know, I mean, that's a broad topic, and we might have talked about that and like later on in the series. But like, at what point are you redeemed? I like how you asked that earlier. Like, it's hard to say because it's just case by case. And I think in the case of Paul, I mean, even after the whole mana catastrophe, which I mean, that's another thing we'll get into, but like, dude drove himself nuts because like he missed his family so much. He would kill everyone there just to get his family back. Almost. I don't know about that, but like the dude would go great lengths to get his family back after that.
We'll hit on Paul more. And,
We'll go there.
Funny peak arc.
We'll go there. We'll save it there.
But
yeah.
So
he
gets full intro arc. I won't talk too much about it because I could talk a ton about it. I have a video planned for sometime this summer where I'm going to dissect just the prologue of Light Novel Volume 1 as to how it sets up everything perfectly. I love the intro to Mushoku Tensei. I think that it's phenomenal. From setting Rudeus up as this character where you're like, damn, like, he kind of sucks. And then, because you see some stuff.
I was going to say, would you like to talk about, because the best place to talk about it would be the intro arc here, about people's perceptions on fans of the show and the show itself, and how it's incorrect. I'll let you have that. You take the floor. I will completely step back, take the floor on this, because this is more your field. You've dealt with this shit more than me. But all I'll say on it is, I don't agree with what people say about it, where people they'll watch this intro and be like, man, he's a shitty person, I'm gonna stop watching it because it's. And we talked about this like literally a few hours ago about how like with isekai, typically main characters don't really go through change, and so that's kind of the preconceived notion that people go into the show with. They'll see Rudeus and like, oh, he's not going to change.
Yeah,
take the floor randomly.
People see him.
Pop off.
They're like, oh, this is my main character. No, I hate him. He's a creep. Yeah, he starts off not a good person. You know, that's what makes his growth as a character so interesting. That's what makes his journey so interesting. Star Wars wouldn't be interesting if Luke Skywalker was immediately the strongest Jedi. No, he has to get there. He has to go, he has to fail, he has to conquer his own flaws to get there. Rudeus is no different. Like Kyle said, we were talking about this earlier. I think that people have grown so accustomed to in Isekai and other similar series that the main character's not really changing, to staying the same fundamental person.
Ultimately,
and so they
the
see Rudeus be this, this shut-in, this bad person who, just objective. He was, masturbating to child Poe right now, load-bearing space, instead of going to his parents' funeral. Like that's abhorrent. That's awful. Like, that's absolutely atrocious. Who would do that? He's an awful person. And we see that, and we're like, we're supposed to root for this guy. Then at the very end, we see him. He's running through his head. He's like, I can't find work. He's like, I've never worked. He said, I never graduated from high school. I don't have a diploma. I don't even know where I'd go to find work. On top of that, where am I going to live? I don't have any money. I can't pay for anything. Like, I only have the clothes on my body. He's beaten up because his siblings beat him because, this entire time they've grown sick of him. He didn't go to their parents' funeral to, masturbate to child Poe right now. Right? He's objectively a disgusting person. They were sick of him, as they rightfully should be. And we're seeing this, and we're like, oh my gosh, like, this guy's just pathetic. Like who is he? At the very end, he sees three school kids, right? About to be hit by a truck. Driver's falling asleep at the wheel. And at the very end, he saves them. He goes and he pushes them out of the way, and he gets hit by the truck itself and he dies. So then the thing is put into our minds as a watcher of, maybe there's more to him than meets the eye. So then it's the question of, why would someone like that sacrifice his life for those kids? Because what we've seen of him is an abhorrent monster, and he sacrifices himself for them. So it's the question of why. Why does he do that? It's the first key in there to there's something more here. As we get to see more of him, obviously he goes. I'll try not to get too carried away because I love.
Yeah, I know. Intro to Mushoku Tensei. I know it's a great intro.
We get to see him more, and then with Roxy, this is probably one of the most important things to ever happen in the series, because Roxy takes him outside. Up until his 5th birthday, or a little bit after, whenever Roxy is taking him to the thing, he's never left the yard. He had been out of the house, he'd been in the yard, but he'd never left the yard because he still has that past trauma. And we figure out it's because he was relentlessly bullied. Back in middle school, he became a shut-in, and things just progressed from there. As we go through the show, we learn more about him.
Yeah, we learn more about that context
everything
too.
That happened to him, to make him into the person that we saw at the beginning, right? And just we get to know him more. But this moment is huge because his entire past life, right? He's a shut-in. He's a NEET. Never didn't go outside, right? And he was still suffering from that. He'd been reborn in a new body to new parents in a new world, all new magic. He'd been training magic. He'd been getting stronger and strong. He said, I'm going to try my best in this new world, right? He's given a second chance, and he still can't go outside. He still can't bring himself to go outside because he's not strong enough. He can't. He's weighed down by too much baggage, right? And also, the last time he went outside, the last time he was forced outside, he died, right? He was killed. It's that he views everyone as going to mock him, right? He still holds on to that past trauma. That's never in any isekai. That's never in any isekai. And then Roxy picks him up and takes him outside herself. And that is huge for Rudeus, because he's like, oh, he finally sees, he's like, these people aren't mocking me. The outside isn't scary. I have Roxy with me. And also, his very deep admiration for her. But she does what no one else in his past life did for him. His parents, although I'm certain that they loved him, and we get to see some of them, they never took him outside. His brothers and sisters never took him outside. The friend who visited never took him outside. Roxy picked him up and took him outside. Was there for him. That is huge.
There are two things I want to add to that. First of all, you could say like everyone in his previous life was like an enabler. They enabled him up until the last second. They never forced it. They never gave him the push he needed to conquer his fear, and he was stuck inside. Secondly, I think, and this is why, like, I think it being isekai is important, because we talked about this like a long time ago. But while he does have his previous experiences, he's still a young kid who's still, like, I'd say, rematuring in a way. And so, because he's a 5-year-old kid, like, he's gonna be taken out. He's gonna be taken outside. Like, when you're an adult, you can make your own decisions. But when you're a kid, you just kind of have to go along with it. And that also, just him being a kid in this setting also helps. Like, that's with Roxy being able to take him out.
Yeah, and that's something else that I'm glad you brought that up. Rudeus is a child at this point. He has his past memories, yes. He's still a child. He can't really control himself. His brain is still maturing. We know that his body is physically different. He says, kind of skipping ahead a bit in this reference, but during the tutor arc, whenever he's, in Volume 2 material, whenever he's with Eris and he's studying the new languages, one of the lines he says is, oh, this brain can learn new languages pretty well. Like his brain is physically different. And we also see, not just physically, but also in his mannerisms and his thought processes, he takes a lot after Paul and Zenith. Yeah. Like, it's something that if you actively look at, it's like, oh, yeah, no, like, you can see Zenith sometimes, you can see Paul, like, probably more times, But you can see both of them. Objectively, he takes after them. Like, he is his own person.
Because they're his parents, and he's relearning everything in this new world.
He's a child. Like he has to, he has to relearn how to walk. He has to relearn how to talk. He can't just immediately go and talk in this new body or walk in this new body. He processes time faster as a kid, as kids do, right? Mm-hmm. This is a completely new body, right? It's and so the Roxy thing, obviously very impactful to him. Meeting Sylphie, I really enjoyed that. Fun, he gets
we'll talk
friend.
About
he helped save the person. Paul cheating on Zenith. We'll talk about more Paul later. I love that arc.
I think we should move on to the tutor arc. We spent a lot of time on the intro. To cap off the intro arc, I'll say this is one of the best intro arcs to an isekai I've seen, because a lot of them they feel very bland. Like, this is, as Brandon explained it, this is like the granddaddy of isekai. But this is one of those times where it's like, I don't think the granddaddy is worse off in comparison. Other like Dragon Ball, for example, right? Like, Dragon Ball was the granddaddy of shonen. I think other better shonen will come around. That's a take that some people will agree or disagree with. Think what you will. But in this case, like, I don't think many other series, like, it's not like the granddaddies produce so many other better ones. I think a lot of isekai have stagnated, and this is still one of the better ones, despite, like, it being a bit older than the ones that have come after.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason it inspired everything, right?
Yeah, but I think a lot of the other isekai, like, they just don't quite hit the nail on the head of, like, why Mushoku Tensei works as well as it does. And this intro arc, I mean, I will be excited to hear what you have to say for that video. This intro arc, amazing. Gotta move on. I feel like we should move on to the next one, but there's a lot to say. But let's get to the tutor arc. So to skip it, to bridge the gap a little bit, he trains and he's friends with Sylphie, and he's like, I want to go to school with her. I want you guys to pay. And Paul's like, all right, I know a method. Knocks his ass out, and he wakes up, and he's in a vehicle with the best female character in the series, Ghislaine.
Yeah, no, Eris isn't in the vehicle yet.
That's so true. Not a vehicle, a moving stagecoach.
I think that counts. I don't know. Semantics.
Semantics, yeah. So, what the point is, right? There's the Grey Rat family. There's a lot of. It's a big branching family, and there's like 4 different branches. Brandon could probably explain that better, but like there's 4 different branches. They're like the Boreas Grey Rat family.
The Boreas Grey Rats.
Oh, they're the Boreas Grey Rats, and so Lord Philip. Yeah, Saros is the older, like, he's the granddad of Eris. Yeah, Lord Philip is like, all right, take you in. I'll let you. Also, like, his existence can't be made known to the public. It's like, whatever. There's family drama issues, like power struggle. But anyway, like, the main gist of it is he is getting Rudeus to tutor Eris. And we get introduced to Brandon's favorite female character. One of his favorite characters. And one of my favorite best girl, quote unquote. I'll have to see more. I mean, you know more about her than I do. But anyway, I love the introduction to her. Just like Rudeus walking in and talking to her, and she talks back, and he smacks her in the face, right? He just
Yeah, and
slaps her,
he's like, no, that doesn't feel so nice, and she gets
and she just
mollywopped.
fucking wails on him, beats his ass up. Um, and it's okay. Again, when you look at characters and like their redemptions, I think Rudeus is like probably one of the lowest. You know, we were talking about that. Her lows, I don't think are so bad. First of all, she's literally how old is she? Like 7 at the time.
She is
Like,
9 at the beginning of the tutor arc and 12
Oh,
when
because
the Mana Calamity happens.
okay, because Rudeus is 2 years behind, so he'd be about
Yes.
7 tutoring her. So yeah, she's a 9-year-old who's kind of been spoiled in being a royal and has never really had to like do anything herself. Just kind of like it just acts a bratty, spoiled kid who's 9 years old, and like that's not normal, but like that's in settings like this. Too, I mean, like that's just a normal thing that could happen. So like I don't think starting her out at that low is so bad. And then over time we see I mean this goes through like the whole rest of season 1, but like we see their relationship grow and they become a lot closer to each other. Because at first it's just like, oh, I hate this this motherfucker rolls up on my house, smacks me in the face, I'm gonna beat his ass. And then at the end it's like I'll beat anyone else's ass who touches him. And I really enjoy seeing that relationship grow. But yeah, so bringing it back into the tutor arc, a few things happen through it. I mean, a lot of it is just like tutoring, teaching Ghislaine to read and write too, do math, because you know she's just a warrior, is pretty powerful. She's king level. Now the one important thing here is before all this tutoring happens, Rudeus goes, Urethra, we need to set up a situation which she realizes why it's so important to have these skills. And so he stages a fake kidnapping, which turns out to be a real one. And
Rolled.
really, like, this is an important thing, and I don't think you'll disagree. It's whenever they're running away and he like shoots off a firework or whatever, or he shoots off like fire. It draws Ghislaine's attention. Ghislaine absolutely murders whoever's like in front of like Rudeus is gonna die, right? Sword's flying at Rudeus's face. He's like, oh shit, I'm dead. Ghislaine blocks it, and then Ghislaine just murders everyone, and he gets like tinnitus, or like tinnitus where he has like the ringing in his ear.
Yeah.
Some whatever it's called. He has like that ringing in his ear. He's like, just like kind of dead-eyed, just like, oh my god, I just watched these people die, and they're all just like happy and cheery about it. And that comes into play a lot later, where like Rudeus kind of freezes up and panics in moments like that, because you know he's just not used to like attacking or killing people. Not attacking, yeah, but he's just like death is a very like serious thing for him.
Yeah.
And then after that, you know, Ares starts coming around. There's a few funny things, like he buys the aphrodisiac and it breaks, and like all funny stuff. I'd say the next important thing, unless I'm forgetting anything, is the dance for Ares's 10th birthday.
Yep.
And Rudeus is a nice man and steps in and helps her with it. Like, helps her practice, and then is her dance partner, because he figures out it's not that she's bad, it's just that she's going at a faster tempo, and he's able to keep up with her tempo. And then they have a nice little party for Rudeus, and we kind of get the explanation of why the queen didn't really like Rudeus. If you care to explain, I mean, if I remember correctly, it's like, why is he here when my kids aren't, or something like that?
Yeah, basically because of the Boreas tradition. All the males in the family go to the head of the household, and Philip lost the succession battle, and so Ares has an older and a younger brother who are Hilda's sons, and so they're in Asura with the head of the Boreas family, and so she was like, why is this kid here whenever one of my own sons aren't?
Yeah, and then she eventually comes around on him, and then I'd say the next big thing, isn't it just Turning Point 1 now? That's the big thing.
Yeah,
like I'm not trying
party, and then Point 1, yeah.
And then they go out into the field because she's like, hey, I got you like a new staff or something, and he's like, let's go test it out. And they go out to this big field, and then oh god, the Mana Calamity starts to happen, right? Who's the guy that like it's the floating castle thing? I forget who is it. Like, you can explain that context better.
So it's Perugius, the armored dragon king. Perugius is the guy in the castle. the guy that comes down is one of his 12 familiars, Armanfi of the Light.
Yeah,
That comes down and is like, "Hey, yo, kid, you doing this?" Rudayus is like, "What? No." And Ghislaine's like, "He's not doing it. I'm a Sword King. You can trust me." He's like, I trust you. I trust you. I'm heading out. Then he leaves.
And then the Mana Calamity happens, and then we see in the final moments, like it's just like it's like a nuke almost that goes off. It's like a nuke that it just warps everything that it hits away, and so it displaces everyone. We could talk more about the effects of it later on, but like everyone gets displaced. So Rudy grabs onto Eris, and they get warped to the Demon Continent.
Yeah,
and this is his first meeting with the Man God.
So I will very quickly say my thoughts on the Tutor arc. It's cool.
Yeah.
I like Eris. Cool to see Rudayus be like, oh, like, I died once, came to this world. What happens if I die now, right? See him be like, oh yeah, that's a real possibility that might happen, right? Seeing him grow closer with Eris is nice. It's like, oh, they're fun because Eris is the best girl, obviously. The dance is fun. His birthday party is fun. He gets the arrogant water dragon king Aquahardia. Funny Chunibyo staff name. that's the full name of his staff, by the way, is the arrogant water dragon king Aquahardia. You just call it Aquahardia. I don't think they ever said the full name in the anime.
I'm probably not gonna remember that, but anyway,
it's a very minor detail that I just think is very funny. He gets that, and then he goes, and then funny Mana Calamity happens, and yes, he meets with Hitogami for the first time.
I guess I can give my thoughts on the Man God. I'm talking more about him as he shows up, but I like the Man God. He's a funny little critter. He's a funny critter. He's a funny overseer god. Yeah, he's a funny guy. And this is like not my first criticism, but like I kinda of like and this one's the most incomplete one because I need to know more about the human god to be like, okay, Rudayus, he's given the second chance, and it's like, why is he special? Why is he giving all this advice? Like, why is he helping him? And again, like that, I'll label it under like quote unquote criticism for now. It's just essentially a lack of not having the what?
You're gonna slap me.
Why?
It's called a show. You watch
I know.
And information.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, it just as of season 1 content, like it just felt odd, but I understand there's probably a better there's reason for why, and we're gonna see why later. So like I'm not gonna gripe on it too much, but yeah, I do like the Man God, and I do find his dynamic with Rudayus fun, where he just is like, he's just this happy little fucker who's just skipping around the cloud world, and Rudayus is just like, just tell me what I need to do, get the fuck out of here. And he's like, okay, listen to me. I got some advice for you. That guy, don't be racist. Bye-bye. And then he wakes up, and then he decides to not be racist.
That's awesome. W for non-racists.
Yes. So yeah, basically, he tells him like, hey, this guy, he's a Superd. Just don't like trust him. Despite what you've heard about the Superds, trust this guy. So he wakes up, and this guy Rugerd, the goat, I like Rugerd. He saved them, and we get introduced to basically the third main character that we're gonna follow for basically the rest of the entire season. And they all eventually form a little party with each other called Dead End. But there's a few things to talk about like first, where Rudayus has that first meeting with him, talks with him, and then Eris does, and then they go after Eris realizes, okay, maybe I shouldn't be racist either. She overcomes her racism. So after that, they go to Roxy's village, right? They do that for the first city. Yeah. And so why did they go there again? I forgot.
Oh, it was just the closest village to where they were.
Okay, cool. Okay. So like they go there, and then
knew, so he went there and was like, oh, like, what do you guys know? Like, oh, what's your plans? That kind of thing.
Yeah, and then they find out, Roxy's parents are there, and they're like, oh, Roxy, please tell her to come visit once in a while, once in like 20 years at least. 10 years at least.
10 years at least.
I know I made the joke in the last episode that we did of Chainsaw Man. That's crazy. But anyway, so they do that. That was a nice little. I like that section. The village is interesting. That's okay. I'm gonna pause, like not full, like the recording, but like pause progressing the like main discussion for a sec to say, I really like the kind of like different species and like ways that certain like tribes and whatnot operate. I love like it's in the small details. I like how it's not a birthday every year; it's every 5 years you get a big party, like stuff like that. You know, they don't keep track of every year; they just keep track of every 5 years. I like how the Meagard village, a lot of them just talk with telepathy. I mean, it just goes a small way. Like there's a lot of atypical fantasy races. I mean, there's a lot of typical ones, but like the four-armed guy. I mean, you don't really see that in a lot of other anime.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool to see that. You know, just different types of just characters interacting, because most of it is it's the humans, it's the beast people, it's the demon tribe, and then like different sub branches of each of those. Is there anything else that I'm neglecting? I feel like I'm gonna
there are 3 other main races.
we haven't met
Beast
them yet?
includes a lot of people. Technically speaking, dwarves and elves are beast races.
Okay, yeah, dwarves and elves. Yeah, like
Dwarves and elves are beast races. There are a ton of different demon races. There are 3 other races, 2 of which you don't really encounter much, and the third one you encounter occasionally. You, as in us watching the series. There is the heavenly race, which is kind of misleading. The heavenly race. There's the ocean race, and then there is the dragon race.
And I know someone from the dragon race.
We may or may not have met someone from the dragon race already. The majority of people in the Mushoku Tensei world that we're going to come across are human, demon, or beast.
Yeah. And then after that, they go on to the next town, which is probably it in another arc I'll talk about, or probably like even then, when I say low point, I don't that's still not a bad thing. Like I liked the section. It just wasn't as entertaining as as everything else, because it's just feels like typical fantasy kind of like isekai stuff. Like, okay, there's a adventurers guild, let's sign up there, let's do some questing. There's stuff that, I mean, it's not to say it's very important. There's stuff like important stuff. The two big things are they get roped in with like this weaker group, and they start like, actually no, 3. First one is they get roped in with this weaker group, and before that Ruggierd like kills a guy who imprisoned like a lion or a tiger or something. And Rudeus like, hey, no, stop, calm down, don't do it. Because he's like, we need to kill them. They're evil villains. And he's like, hold on, let's not jump to murdering people. Believe it or not, murdering people, Ruggierd, isn't the solution to every problem. And this is where we get to see some of that change with Ruggierd's start. Because like, let's take one talk about Ruggierd. Ruggierd, he's I called him earlier like a very lawful neutral person, not neutral, like lawful good. Like it's specifically toward like protecting children, where they set him up like, oh hey, he's this great guy who'll protect children, but that clouds his decision making. Like there are so many times where he's arguing with Rudeus where it's like, I gotta kill him, and Rudeus like, okay, but like why? And he's like, because he stepped on a child's foot. He needs to be executed, Rudeus. Rudeus is like, no, stop. Come on, guys. Please, Ruggierd. Like, you don't need to execute him. He didn't do anything that bad. Like, let's just talk things out. So we see Ruggierd throughout the rest of the season, or I assume series. I assume we'll see him again. But like throughout the rest of the season, he learns to be a bit more level-headed, uses words better. He's not so rash, and he does that in an effort to like grow and try to help his reputation as a superior. And I like that. I like Rudeus kind of teaching him that. And then the second most important thing, which kind of shows that he was in the right, is when they're in the forest and they roll up on another squad that's getting attacked by like some giant snake. And Rudeus like, hey, hold up. Let me cook. Let's not jump in yet. The longer we wait, the more that they owe it. And in the middle of him thinking about it, one of them just dies. And Ruggierd
really should have thought about that beforehand.
Ruggierd is not happy with him because he made them wait and let a kid die. So then we get to see it on the opposite end where it's like, Rudeus, you're in the wrong, and Ruggierd had a good point. And then the other third thing is when he reveals to Nokopara, that's his name, Nokopara, that he like when he threatens Nokopara, Ruggierd does, and he's like, all right, if we get to the next city and we can't lock in on the Adventurers Guild, I'm gonna come find you. What's that? It's that German meme of like, I'm killing you. I'm killing you. I'm not thinking about anything else. I don't give a shit about anything else. My only thought is get that fucking guy right now. Like that's basically what he does to Nokobara. So I mean, it was a good arc. It's just I didn't care for it as much as believe me, we're gonna get to some real good shit. And we already had some real good shit like in the intro and the Mana Calamity, but just it feels like you need something to like bridge the gap in their journey. Like it was fine, but I didn't think too much of it. What were your thoughts on it? You probably have more to say on it than I do.
I'm saying I'm kind of a little bit lower on it. Is talking relatively to the other stuff in Mushoku Tensei, which is some of my favorite stuff in fiction. So being a little bit lower on it doesn't mean much. It is a little bit slower. It's the introduction to the demon arc, or the demon continent, right? The demon arc, that's so true. The introduction to the demon continent, right? The big Mana Calamity turning point has happened. The entire show has changed. Because up until this point, I remember whenever the anime came out, I was watching people's reviews on it. And this happened, and people were like, dude, like, I thought this was going to be, like, generic, oh, he's tutoring her, he goes to school, you know, whatever. And then this happens, and it's like, whoa. It's like, you know, it's a turning point in the story, whoa. You know, go sign up with the Adventurers Guild. You know, as I told you earlier, Kyle, you know, it's what you call it? It's the thing where it's like, you know, this was one of the first things to do it. So it's like, yeah, but it's like, it's also like Romeo and Juliet and seeing like,
other swans.
Romance. Everyone knows Romeo and Juliet was the first play to ever include romance in it.
Yeah. It feels more like a point A to point B kind of arc.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it introduces Rugierd, right? It grows Rugierd's and Rudeus. Oh my gosh, I kept wanting to say Rugierd. I was like, no. It grows Rugierd's and Rudeus' relationship, right? It introduces you to the demon continent, that kind of thing, and just sets us off on our little journey that's going to be for the rest of the season. I think that it sets out and accomplishes what it wants to do. I quite enjoy it, but I'll also say, yeah, I mean, maybe it's a little bit slower and a little bit less bombastic than other stuff. I completely understand and agree with that.
You're gonna have to tell me when, because I do want to talk about the episode that Roxy gets to herself. You'll just have to tell me when it is again. I know it happens like a little bit. Isn't it after Beast People?
It's after Paul.
Okay, after Paul. All right. So now we're at in our DMs. I made a little list of arcs. Brandon sent a bunch of meme names. I put a bunch of serious ones, but I still kept the meme. It's the Demon Lolly arc. Let's talk about Kishirika, Kishi. I don't know the full thing. Kishirika, Kishirisu.
Yes.
So after their little, I remember it because I absolutely love this character. This character was hilarious. So at least in my opinion, I thought she was really funny.
Oh, I love her.
Kishirika, Kishi. I'm just gonna call it. I'm just gonna say Kishirika. Anyway, so they get to their next stop, which is like a port town, and they run into a snag. They're charging Rugierd so much fucking money to get on this boat, and so they're just like, all right, we need money. But also, another thing in play here, Man God shows up again. He's like, hey, you like my advice? And he's like, oh, I thought I'd forget you. And then Man God's like, all right, look. Get some food, walk through an alleyway. I promise you're not gonna regret it. And then he just, Rudeus wakes up. He does that, and then we meet Kishirika. In terms of just how she's animated, I adore Kishirika's, like, just the animation on her. Because as Brandon told me, apparently there was an animator who requested to work on Kishirika just to do the animation for her.
It was like an independent animator got on the project to animate her scenes.
And my God, it paid off because she's just so just visually distinct from everything else in the show, and I think that helps her stand out to me. Like her bits are funny. She's very bouncy and bubbly, and like the animation reflects that, where she's just like bouncing around. It's oddly smooth and satisfying to watch this character move around on screen. Not because she's lolly. But So yeah, what happens? Rudeus gives her the food. She's like, "I can get you any wish." She's like, "All right, I want to rule the world," and she's like, "I can't do that. I want like a lot of money. Oh, I don't have any money." just like, "I can give you whatever you want." It's like, "I can't give you whatever you want."
Uh-huh.
And then he's like, "All right, well, what can you give?" And she's like, "Well, I have a demon eye," and just fucking drills it into his eyeball, and he's like screeching in pain. And she's like, "Ah, good luck," and just leaves him as he's like just left on the floor with pain. It's really funny. And then we get Rudeus getting a very interesting power. He gets the power of foresight,
Yeah.
future sight, if you will. So, the more mana he pours into his eyes power, the more he can see into the future. It's not by much, but like we've seen it help in fights. Like he fights Eris and is able to use it to like he's used it a few times to get leg up on the opponents. Because it's still, on the other hand, just because something's coming at you, can you dodge? Like if I looked into the future and I saw that like the Earth was gonna blow up, like okay, cool. Like what am I gonna do about it?
Yeah.
So there's some moments where it doesn't work, and he sees stuff. It's like, oh crap, I'm gonna get hit. But it helps. It's
a
a
useful
good thing to
power.
help. What?
It's a useful power.
It's useful. It's a fun power too. Like because
It has
usually
about
when
an
you think
effective
of
range of 1 second, because any more than a second, and it's like, oh, there's too many different possibilities, right? It's impossible to focus on only one.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Even
And
then, against different opponents, like against Rougier, the anime didn't really show it. Like it happened, and he kind of explained where he's like, Rougier, what he does in the manga and the light novel, and it's like, okay, well, yes, that is a weakness of it, is where Rudeus is looking however long out, and he sees Rougier like throwing like a right punch at him, right, for example. And so he's like, okay, I'm going to block against that. But then in the time that he's throwing the punch, Rougier sees that Rudeus is prepping to block it, so he switches to a left punch and gets him. And like the future switches because of what Rudeus does. It's like, oh, okay, so yeah. So
it's not perfect.
It's a good power, but it has its limits.
Yeah, it's not perfect. And then we see that because of this, he helps a man named Gallus, where like he sees in the future this guy's like, "Hey kid, don't you fucking bump into me? Don't you walk away? This is a perfect good moment to throw your life away." He's just yelling at this kid, and then Rudeus sees that like a vase is gonna fall on him, so he just blasts him out of the way with like wind magic. And then he's freaking out about what he's got to do to get the money. He's going to go sell his staff that Eris got for his birthday. And Rugier's like, "You don't want to do that. Come on, we'll figure things out. I'll avoid being myself. Like I'll overlook all evil until you can get us across. I don't care if you got to smuggle me. Just do whatever you got to do." And then Gallus shows up and he's like, "Oh, hey, you're that kid who helped me. I can smuggle you across. You got to do something for me though. You got to help. Like, what was it? The specifics like liberate
break some goods.
Yeah, break some goods. Yeah." So they get across, and we see he's untying Rougier, and Rougier's like, "They killed one of the kids for crying too loud. Mind if I eliminate all of them?" And Rudeus is like, "Yeah, pop off, I guess." And then he's going around, they're killing everyone, and then some of the kids are like, "Oh no, but the donkey! You left the donkey behind. Where's the sacred beast dog?" And Rudeus is like, "I guess I'll go back and get it." What could possibly go wrong? And then everything goes wrong because the chieftain and like a warrior show up, like, "Oh, you're physically assaulting our religious idol almost. Like that is a sacred thing in our village, and you're desecrating it with your lewd face."
I can explain the dog. They didn't.
Yeah,
really
you can explain
it
a little better.
Anime.
Okay, cool.
Like now.
Yeah, I mean you can explain it real quick. And I'll get back to what I'm
real quick, the sacred dog. They said this in the anime. It's a companion for a legendary hero. That's born every so often, right? What you call it. And so the dog is born to be the hero's companion. And so it's like, oh, no, they say the hero's about 100 years out. So it's just the dog has to be born and then grow up.
Okay,
and
cool.
so the beast people have the thing to they do worship it. It's kind of like a god to them, because it's like a holy thing. But they raise it and take care of it so it's ready for whenever it goes on the journey with the hero.
But can I just say, in the anime, that dog is so fucking adorable.
That dog
Holy
it's
shit.
a very cute dog.
It is a very if he weren't doing the lewd face, because I'm guessing the beast people don't fucking pet it like you would in the normal world. And once again, that another thing to bring up again, that's Rudeus's pre-beliefs from the previous world coming into play, getting him in landing him in hot water. And yeah,
I'd really say that's just more a misunderstanding.
Yeah, it's a misunderstanding. Okay,
Rudeus has
it's
no
a misunderstanding.
Clue how important this dog is to them.
Yeah.
And so they see this random kid getting real comfy with their thing of worship, and they're like, I don't think so.
It's a misunderstanding plot, and usually I'm not a fan of those. But in this instance, like it. Another thing I can say at the show, a lot of stuff it feels natural. Like in this case, it's like okay, you like look at it from their perspective. You're going in to free these kids. You show up, no one's there, but the only person there, it's a dude with a lewd expression on his face, touching up your sacred beast god idol thing. What are you gonna think the moment you see that? And even then, like when the chieftain saw Rougerd, it's like, oh hey, you're kidnapping these children, and they eventually work it out. But like, they kidnap Rudeus, they knock him out, they bring him to jail, and then we get him in jail for a bit. We meet Geese. Geese gets thrown in there for like cheating at dice for them. And then a few things happen, and then the forest starts burning down because Gallus, he's actually not a good person. He and his other guys are here, and there's like trying to kidnap more of the beast people. And then we get a very good fight. We get Rudeus, Geese, and the dog fighting Gallus, who is a North God style fighting saint. He's at saint level, and they beat him.
Yeah, it's weird. He's just called a North Saint.
Oh, North Saint.
Yeah, it's weird because like the
Isn't it North God?
There is a North God, and it's the North God style, but it's just like you just call them like North Saint or like North Emperor, North King, or like it's kind of odd. It's kind of odd. It's like they're advanced in the Sword God style, like beginner, intermediate, advanced, but then like a Saint, it's like they're a North Saint or a Sword Saint. But like with the magicians, he's a Saint level water magician because like you have to see which school of magic it is. It's a little bit odd. Anyway, a very minor detail.
I like this fight because not only does it show that like it gives Rudeus a pretty decent sized dub, hold this dub, boss man, but also it's a nice way to have the even if Rougerd and Eris didn't show up, I feel like it would have worked out for the best with him because this is a critical moment. I think it's a critical moment for him as like reflecting his growth because he's like, I could just escape. What do I have to accomplish here? I'm not like Rougerd. He's thinking this as he's seeing everyone get burned and assaulted and like killed. And he's like, I can't do this. Like, why should I do this? I have no attachment here. This isn't my business. And then he goes to protect them anyway. It's not subtle, but like it's a good moment indicating that he's changing as a person for the better. Because if this were just him, like if he were just isekai'd and like this happened like immediately after, it's like, oh okay, fuck this, I don't have any attachment. But because of what he's learned from his experiences as a young child, and he's learned to care and love, he sticks and he fights this North Saint, and it's a good fight. And the warrior is like, okay. The one who knocks him out is like, okay, you're clearly not a bad guy. Let's handle this. We'll put a pin in this. Let's just throw it up in the air that you're not a bad person.
It's up there. It's up there.
It's up there. We're gonna handle this first, and then we'll deal with this later. And then they work it through. Rudeus, he protects them, he saves them, he shows that he's a good person to these people, and he earns their respect. And I really like that as a moment. It is a strong moment because it's a believable win. It's not like it's not like they set up this overpowered beast. It's like, yeah, Rudeus with his gimmick tricks, Geese is an experienced warrior, and this like sacred beast dog thing with the power of scaling of I don't know. I, as the viewer, am able to believe that Rudeus, through these experiences, has the capacity and the skill and the technique to beat a guy like this. Because he's trained with Paul. Paul's no slacker, who we'll see soon enough. Paul's no slacker. So, yeah. And then we get a nice little segment ending the Beast People forest section where we see one of the kids get attached to Eris and they have a little fight. Like, there's not too much to say on that, but like it was neat, a bit of conflict to see. We also learn more about like Ghislaine and her place in the village and sheesh, all that.
Yeah, so my thoughts real quick on the Demon Lolly arc and the Beast People arc.
Yeah, sorry, I went on for a while.
No, you're all good. My thoughts on Volume 4, right? It makes sense you threw it all together. All of this is Volume 4.
Perfect.
What you call it? I didn't really talk on Hitogami and the demon thing, so I'll talk real quick on him. I love Hitogami. 4th favorite character. Fourth on the big board. Love me some Hitogami. Funny, mysterious man. The question of who is he? What does he want? Why is he helping out Rudeus? Because his advice objectively helps Rudeus.
Yes.
So it's like so what is Hitogami getting from this? That's the big question, right? I remember I was reading through it. I remember reading through it the first time. I was like, okay, this Hitogami guy. What's he cooking? What's he cooking? What's he cooking a little bit? So I quite like him and getting to see him. Keisha Rika, I love Keisha Rika. She's an awesome character. Funny demon eye. I think the biggest thing that happened from this was Rudeus beating Eris, and then Eris being like, basically she feels like she can never catch up to him. She's like, she sees how hard she tries, and like Rudeus is just stronger than her, and she's a bit down about this because she trained really hard, and then Rudeus beat her, like, I won't say effortlessly, but he beat her without magic, right, with his little eye, and so she's like, I still have a lot of way to go, and she kind of sees them on different levels. I wonder if that'll come back into play.
Like the last episode even.
I wonder if her thoughts on that will come back into play. But yeah, funny racism into Gallus, smuggling him over. He wants them. So Gallus's whole plan, right, was he wanted them to kill the guards guarding the Beast Children. The Beast people take the Beast Children back to their village. They follow them back, and they kidnap people from the village, and they get more.
Directly,
and then there's less people for Gallus to share with. Like that's Gallus's whole plan here. That's why he wanted them to go in and kill the guards. Like that was his plan.
Yeah, he had a good setup.
I like the Beast People arc. Getting introduced to Geese. I love Geese. He's definitely Geese is probably in my top 10. I have to iron out my top 10. Geese is probably in my top 10. I really like.
I'm guessing more happens with him, right? Because
we may or may not see Geese again at some point in the series.
Yeah, right now I wouldn't really say that just from my.
No, that's
he's a cool guy. He's a cool guy. I can tell you what. After we finish talking about everything, I could try to give you like a rough top 5, 10-ish.
Yeah.
A rough one, but anyway.
I really like Geese. He's definitely up there. So getting introduced to him was cool. I enjoyed his little fight against Gallus. I enjoyed Rudeus kind of showing off and then being like, earning the respect of the Beast People, and the Beast People being like, oh, it was actually a misunderstanding. Yo, we just imprisoned the dude who saved our kids in the Sacred Beast.
Yeah, like they feel awful about it.
And then the funny last episode of the Beast People arc during the rainy season, where we get to see some of Eris's character and how she's grown from a hot-headed, hot-tempered person into a teacher. She's teaching, and it's like oh my gosh, she's grown, she's matured, she's grown up. Is it burnt? Did you drop it in dirt? No, grow up. That's her. She's grown up. And so I really enjoyed getting to see that. And then they leave and they go to the Peak arc.
Oh, all right. So to set the stage, right? Eris goes goblin slaying anyway next arc. No, but all right. So
that is what happened. That's so true.
Side note: for those who don't know, there's an OVA. Like it's like another episode of the series that introduces some other important characters like Cliff and others. Where it explains what happened with Eris when the first time Rudeus meets with Paul. So let's talk about that, right? So he doesn't talk to the man god again, right? Like he just shows up and sees the kidnapping. He's like, well, time to be a hero. Right? Like, okay, no, sorry. Man god comes in the next arc. Anyway, So they show up, they get settled in, and that's what happens. Where Rudeus thinks he sees a kidnapping, and also, side note, he later finds out like the dude that got taken was one of the bullies that bullied like Sufi. I really enjoyed that inclusion. Just was like, wow, like it's such a small detail, but it goes a long way to show like, yeah, people were displaced all fucking over from this mana calamity. And this arc, I'll get into that now. Like this arc really drives that home. So to set the stage, right? Rudeus, he follows these kidnappers. He sneaks into the warehouse and he puts these pair of pants, like pantsuit, on his head. And then what proceeds to happen is I think one of the worst moments of two characters just completely shitting the bed with how they present themselves to each other. Because like looking at it from both their perspectives, Paul has just found his son with pants on his head, goofing off apparently, and telling him this like really happy tale about his journeying and adventuring. And from Rudeus' perspective, his dad's just drunk and hanging out with these hot babes, like just doing whatever. This arc is so good. So yeah, they meet up at this like restaurant to talk about what happened, and Rudeus is telling him everything. and they both get a little pissed off at each other. They both have like beef with each other because from on the one hand, from Rudeus's like perspective, like he tells, or from Paul's perspective on Rudeus, he, Rudeus is just telling all of them what happens. He's telling like, yeah, I did this and this and this, and then the man, like from how he's wording it, it sounds like he's had like an easy go of it, and that's how Paul, being drunk, interprets it. He's like, oh, so you just goofed off this whole time? Why didn't you look for any of us? Why didn't you write for any of us? You had a bodyguard with you. Why did you get to have it so easy? I suffered. Why didn't you suffer? And then, from the other perspective, it's like Rudeus is just a kid who got thrown in this situation, just trying to figure it out. Like, you could probably add a lot more on what I'm saying because I feel kind of scattered with it because there's just a lot to say with it. But the big point is for this first meeting of them, they both have a lot of reasons to like be mad at each other. From it, I'm not gonna call it like a misunderstanding, but I think it's just both sides. Like this is a lot of how arguments happen. Like both sides are just misinterpreting what they know of the other. Where it's like Rudeus didn't have an easy go of the situation. Rudeus had it pretty rough. There were times where he almost died. I mean, literally in the last arc, he could have died in that fight. He might have died to Gallus because he was alone. He didn't always have his bodyguard. And on the other hand, with Rudeus, it's like, oh yeah, I mean, what have you been doing, huh? You're just hanging out with these women. You're like getting drunk all the time. Like, why are you telling me that I should be doing stuff when you haven't done anything? Even though Paul has in fact been doing everything he could, and he's just kind of given into despair. He's sunk a little bit into the mud. He's sunk into the mire of it all, and then. This is a really sad moment where they get into like a little scuffle. We see him use the demon eye to like dodge a hit from his dad. He gets on top of him, starts hitting him, and then we see what's her name? Norn?
Yes, I'm impressed. I'm impressed you remembered that. Yes, Norn.
Yeah. Wow, we're retaining information. That's crazy. But no, I get why it's a name of like that character hasn't been really important. Then Norn walks in.
That's impressive.
Yeah. Norn walks in. Yeah, Norn walks in at the worst possible moment where Rudeus is like punching his dad in the face, yelling at him, and Norn's like, quit bullying my dad. And he's like, wait, like I'm another misunderstanding to like make the situation worse. Like I'm not bullying him. Like he was being mean to me. Like everyone got mad at me. What the fuck I do? And then like he just leaves because it ends in a very messy spot. And then he goes back to his room, and then he's like, okay, you know what? We had our first fight, nothing to worry about. I'll just have to go talk to Paul. And he throws up at the thought of having to go talk to Paul after an argument like that. So yeah, that's the first half of this incident. Brandon, before I want to hear your thoughts on all of it. I adore the build up to this argument. It is this character drama is easily in my favorite, like the best part. All those fun buzzwords about it. Like the best thing about Mushoku Tensei season 1 is this argument, just because of how well written it is, and it's so awkward to watch. And you've done a good job in argue. It's so uncomfortable to watch. You just feel awkward watching it, just because it's just so real. It's so visceral with how they're interacting with each other. And they both have valid points. It's not like the very first argument that they had, right? Or like the big one where he punches Rudeus and it's like, how dare you attack that kid? Like he didn't know anything about the situation. Rudeus was in the right there. He was not wrong. Both sides aren't necessarily wrong here, and that's what makes their argument more compelling to view from an outside perspective. Because it's like you really have to think about it a lot. Like who is more so in the right here? Are they both just being over the top about it? Sorry, I'm kind of scattered on it. But yeah, I really enjoyed the build up to the resolution of their argument, and I'll talk about that in a sec. But yeah, what are your thoughts on him showing up and meeting dear old Papa?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna try to keep myself from going too off topic and saying too much. I love this volume. Volume 5 is one of my favorite volumes. I absolutely adore it. I think that it's done so well with Paul's side and Rudeus' side, where it's like neither of them have any clue what the other one's gone through, right? And so both of them are like, oh, I've had the harder time.
Yeah.
You have Rudeus where whenever he was going through his story with his father, he intentionally left out some of the difficult stuff, and intentionally made it because he didn't want him to worry. So he said that. Now, of course, that was not the best choice, because then Paul's like, "Oh, you've done all this. You haven't looked for anyone though." And it's like, oh, like maybe that's expecting a bit much, but from Paul's perspective, all Paul has been doing for the last year and a half is looking for people, much to his own detriment. It wasn't explored too much in the anime, just the kind of pressures, but like in the light novel and in the manga, it's explained, he's like, at the beginning, whenever I formed this group, it was, we were finding people, we were reuniting people. It's like, oh, okay, still not finding any of my family. But as time goes on, you're just finding corpses. You're just finding people too late. And he says, the people blame you. He's like, why couldn't I get there faster? And then he's like, well, you haven't found any of my family yet. And he's seeing all these other people turn up dead or turn up in these horrible situations. He's like, what happened to them? And so he starts to drink to escape all this, all the stress from being the leader of this group. And
an escape mechanism,
yeah. And so he's been under a ton of stress, and he's worked insanely hard over the past year and a half. And all he's had is Norn. And so here Rudeus shows up, his son, and and it's like, oh, my son's alive. One, he's drunk, he's so miserable at this point from everything that he has trouble seeing through that, and he's like, he's
just naturally nasty. Yeah, he's just naturally being like a nasty twat to his own son.
He hasn't even been looking. And it's like Rudeus never even thought about it.
He even said like, I just forgot. He says, I just forgot.
He never even thought about it. He never thought to write. He never thought to do anything that would give them any clue. He genuinely forgot, and he had a lot on his plate. But I mean, he forgot. And so like Paul, I don't think that Paul is completely in the wrong there for being like, like I've been here for like a year and a half doing this, and like you, my capable son, haven't. And so I realized I've gone on my little tangent, because I do love this arc a lot. And so just his side and Rudeus' side, it's done so well. The altercation itself, where it's like, Rudeus is wailing into Paul and says things that he shouldn't say, makes accusations that he shouldn't accuse, wailing into Paul, and then Norn comes in, and it's like, from her perspective, he is, because Norn knows, I mean, obviously not all of it because she's young, but she knows what Paul has been going through. She's been there. Paul is basically all that she knows. I bet you she barely remembers, because she was just
a little baby when he left.
3, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, she was 3 whenever the
and obviously, right, in moments like that, like if people are arguing, like you're naturally going to side more with people that you're closer related to. So like everyone in that bar, once again, I don't know if they showed an anime here, but like it's very reminiscent of like when he looked up and he saw everyone staring at him. It's just like the eyes that he felt back. Like, that's why he ran off, right? Like he felt like everyone was looking at him like they looked at him in his old life.
Yeah.
Isn't that why?
Mm-hmm, basically. And he's just like, like, what did I do wrong? He runs out.
And then and then God, I just shows like a lot of other series wish they could be this good casually with having character blow-ups. Like there are a lot of series that try building up to these big arguments, but like one person is still ultimately in the wrong, right? Like it's hard creating a conflict such as this where both characters are right in their own way. Like you can't fault either one for what they say or do, because of the circumstances that led both of them. Like they both have, like if I had to pick a side, I'd ultimately say like, I'm more biased to Rudeus, but like that's still like neither one is in the wrong when they have their argument here. And then this moment where like Eris and Ruggierd are with him, and like he's like freaking out about it, and then we see Paul in the bar, and then we get one of my like favorite moments in this little arc here, which naturally becomes one of my favorite moments in the series to an extent. It's when Geese shows up and tries talking Paul down and being like, look, Paul, like, don't you have a lot of, like, they have a good discussion here. It's like, aren't you being a little bit too hard on him? And Paul's like, well, he's a genius. Like, my kid, the genius. Like, he's great. Like, he should have, right? Like, what were you, Geese asked him, like, what were you doing at the age of 11? And Paul's like, that's what's that matter? Like, okay, fine. I wasn't doing anything important. My son's a lot smarter than I am, so I expect more from him. And then one of my favorite line drops, right? And you can elaborate more on their discussion. But like one of my favorite line drops from that is Geese is like, "What were you expecting a corpse? Would you rather have seen your son come back as a corpse? Like, is that to that extent? Like, would you rather him have had like lost a limb or an eye, like be near on death? Like, can't you just be happy that your son is alive and well?" and put aside those expectations. Like, just embrace the fact that your son went through a situation like this and is alive. And your son probably went through hell. And this is where he explains, like, don't you think that because he explained everything so happy and naturally, like, he left out all those, like, awful parts not to worry you? And that's when Paul has, like, a little change in his attitude. And then they have the second half of their meetup where he goes back to the restaurant. And I love this, right? It's just the bartender, Paul just sitting there, and then Dead End walks in. Eris, gets feisty, and Roger like picks her up and walks her out. And then they just sit down and have their nice little talk about everything, and they just start working things out. And I love how when Rudeus is explaining everything, the bartender walks up and it's just like, "Hey kid, at least look your dad in the eye when he's talking to you." And he sees it on Paul's face, like it's written all over the wall of like just how much he's like regretting their little hiccup, their little fight, not little fight, their fight that they had previously. There's more details to it, like in what they say, but I think the big thing about it is the resolution. And with the resolution, I enjoy the fact that Rudeus is like, "Look, I'm happy that you're alive. You're happy that I'm alive. Can't we just let's just pretend like this never happened, right? Let's just wipe the slate clean. We both jumped to conclusions. We both like made mistakes here, right? Let's just move on from it and restart." And he's like, "Oh, hey, Dad, I'm so happy to see you." And Neil like jumps into his arms, and then we just see Paul start crying, and it's such a powerful moment. Oh my God. Ugh, I love that. I love that scene so much where they just work it through like mature, functioning adults.
Peak Shoku Tensei.
Peak Shoku Tensei. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm a very big fan of the second half. Paul's talk with Geese, where Geese, we learn, I mean, it's already somewhat there. Geese is a demon race. He comes from the demon continent. He tells Paul, he's like, "Hey, have you ever been to the demon continent?" Paul's like, "No." He's like, "You don't got water there. You have to kill monsters for firewood." In the light novel and in the manga, this is a scene that they didn't adapt in the anime. I was kind of disappointed. They didn't. Geese takes Paul to the sewers of Millis, and where they take on a little job from the Adventurers Guild, and they have to go kill a crocodile. It's like a big crocodile.
From the demon continent?
It's like a B rank monster, right?
Is it from the demon continent?
It's just a monster from
Okay.
a monster in Millis.
Okay.
And they go. It's like a B rank monster. They go and they kill it. And then
Do they kill it easily?
They're sitting down. They're a little bit winded, and Geese is like, "Hey, Paul, that was pretty tough, wasn't it?" And Paul's like, "Yeah, what's your point?" He's like, there are monsters like this literally everywhere on the demon continent and stronger. He's like, this is what your son had to fight through, all while being around a demon race that he didn't know might could turn on him at any time, right? And having to protect Eris at the same time, all while being 11 and having to manage the journey back and all that. He's like, don't you think he had his plate full? And then he gives him the little line of, would you have rathered your son come back with dead eyes and a couple lost limbs? And then Paul's like, huh. And we get to see Paul in home
in his drunken state. Sorry, like I thought you were building like when Paul was drunk. Remember when he had that little vision of like Rudeus dying at his feet and he like screams.
Yeah, I don't think that I don't know if he was drunk then, but he's tucking Norn into bed. And he sees first a little vision of Rudeus, like happily with him, like patting Norn into bed with him. He's like, "Oh, that's nice." And he sees the vision of Rudeus like dead, crawling to him, like, "Why didn't you find me soon enough?" It like freaks him out. I love that scene, by the way. I'm like, okay, that's peak. He washes himself off and he like sees his face and he's like, "Huh, so this is what he was talking to, huh?" And then you get the little scene of him in the bar, where Eris is like, "Ayo, I don't like you," and Rucher is like, you should probably work things out, and leaves and all that. And then he talks to Rudeus. He tries to, and they're being very formal and just all that. And there's a big distance there, right? I think that the voice acting was done so well, and the cinematography, everything was portrayed very well.
Peak.
Rudeus is about to leave. The bartender comes over, gives him a cup. He says, "Look," he says, "I don't know. All you two are talking about, right? I don't know the situation. But you should at least look the guy in the eyes." Rudeus looks up and he looks at Paul's face. And he's reminded of a time back after he was a shut-in, one of his friends from school would come over and would hang out with him. Right?
Oh, this! Yes, I completely forgot about this.
Would come over, hang out with him, talk with him, and whatnot. And one day, he got mad at him. He yelled at him, kind of, threw him around a little bit. And the guy left. And he's like, he felt bad, right? He felt bad. He's like, I'll apologize the next time I see him. And he never came back. And Rudeus never went out to go see him. And he said, he looked at Paul's face and he remembered, he's like, that was similar to my face then. He regrets. He regrets that he can't work things through. He said, but Paul came. That guy never came back. I never went to that guy. Right? But Paul came. Paul came here. And that's when he realizes, Paul, let's just forget yesterday ever happened. You just met your son for the first time, and they go and they hug, and Paul cries, and it's like, oh my gosh, they're united. That scene always without fail gets to me, bro. It's so good.
It hit me in the fucking gut when I saw it again too. I was like, damn. Like, again, shows just wish they could build up to tension like that so naturally and have like a satisfying conclusion to it all. Mm-hmm. Shows just wish they could do that, like Mushoku Tensei does, and it's incredible.
It's
yeah.
Peak. And then the little ending of the arc where Paul gives him some money, so they go on and leave Milas, and they go on. And Rudeus is like, okay, I'm gonna go, search. We're leaving out a lot of details I can't talk about forever. So we're gonna go search, and they're saying goodbye, and Norn doesn't want to say goodbye, and Paul's like, next time you better say goodbye to your brother, and she's like kind of crying a little bit, and it's like, okay,
And then we're after the Paul argument arc. We get to we go from peak to mid. I'll say it. Like I don't care for the Shirane arc. Like there's a lot of good elements. Don't get me wrong. So like the whole general premise to it is, they show up in the city, and Man God shows up again. He's like, hey Rudeus, you're gonna encounter this girl in the alleyways. This little maid girl, whatever, dressed like a maid. Don't tell her your real name. Come up with an alias and just like help her. Right, just help her. And so he does that. He does the exact thing where he encounters her and then has an alias, and then finds out that it's Aisha, and Aisha tells them like, I hate my brother, because they start talking about it, and she's like, I can rely on people, and he's like, do you have a brother to rely on? She goes, yeah, I do, but I fucking hate him. And then you can elaborate on this, because I know you said there's something different about the light novel, but when Rudeus is like, excuse me, why don't you like him? She says, well, one of his greatest treasures is a pair of panties, and he's just a fucking pervert, and I don't like him. He's a pervert. He's gross. Do you want to explain like what it is like in the light novel? Because there's a big difference.
Part of it. It's also, she's been raised since birth to serve Rudeus, and she's like, it's frustrating for her, right? Because it's a lot of what Lilia talks about, and so she's like, I hate Rudeus, kind of revolving there, and she's like, why would I want to, I don't like this guy.
Yeah, because that wasn't in the anime. That wasn't like the big thing was like, the box of, and I find that one more endearing. It's just like a little kid being like, oh, my brother's a pervert, I don't like him. It's just more of like a childish thing. But then again, the other one does reflect Aisha better, because Aisha's Aisha's like a child genius. According to what Brandon said,
she's canonically extremely smart.
Yeah,
just compare her to like Norn, who's like a normal 6-year-old.
I'll give up the big secret here. Like after everything, and because throughout the end of this arc that we're about to talk about, as they're leaving, Rudeus never tells her anything, and then she's leaving. She's like, "Bye, brother," and Rudeus like, "Bye," and he's like, "Wait, what do you mean by that?" Because he never told her, and she just figured it out. She's pretty smart. She's a pretty smart kid.
Yeah.
This whole arc, it's what's her name? Hang on, don't tell me. I'm putting my brain here. It starts with the C. She's like the one with freckles on her face, right?
Yeah, she does have freckles on her face. It does not start with C.
What does it start with?
G.
Ginger. That's it.
Yes.
Yeah. So Ginger. Sorry, I was thinking like something with like candy or spice or something. Yeah. So Ginger shows up, and then it's like, Roxy's here. We're all waiting for you. You should come to the castle. And then he goes there, and the reason I don't like it is it feels very reminiscent of the Beast People Woods arc, where like he gets captured, right? He gets captured by Pax. This the print. Also, we've neglected to talk about Roxy. So I'll give a little context for
Oh yeah,
Roxy.
that's right. That's right. I forgot to remind you. Roxy had her own little episode after the peak arc.
So to explain, you can correct me if I'm wrong on any parts, but Roxy, after doing like training Rudeus, went off to this Shirane kingdom to like train the Prince Pax because Pax is just a fucking pervert. I hate him. He's just a gross little pervert man, little gross pervert king. She leaves, and then after the main catastrophe, she starts looking for Rudeus, like looking for everyone else, but like specifically Rudeus. She forms a party with 2 other people from Paul's previous party, the dwarf and the elf. There's some funny moments where, in certain parts where they're exploring, she'll walk in on the elf woman just taking it like a champ in all directions.
That's so true.
And then, that because she just likes having sex. It's funny. She's a funny character. So she's just looking around with him, and so there's one episode where she does like on her own. She goes back to visit her hometown, and then she goes to that one city with Nokbara, and because they were in a previous party together, and just catches up with him. I don't remember if anything else happens. I don't remember what happens after that, but like that's the last thing I remember with her little side. Oh yeah, no. She gets
goes back and visits her parents.
Yeah, she visits her parents. She does that, and then this was at the last episode, right? Where like she gets drunk with Kishirike or Kishirika.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, she visits her parents, and they have like a little endearing moment there where like she goes back and she can't communicate telepathically, like with telepathy, because like that's just how she was born, and she has a nice little moment reuniting with her family. I enjoyed the Roxy side episode. It felt like a nice little gap after the peak that was Paul's arc with Rudeus.
Yeah.
So, is there anything big I missed before I explain what happened with the rest of Shirone?
Not really. I'll give my thoughts real quick.
Okay.
I mean, I really like Roxy, Ellen Elise and Tallhand. Love them. Ellen Elise is hot. I would have sex with her if you know what I mean.
You and other people would all at once.
That's very accurate. The funny Roxy stuff, I enjoy her. She's a fun character. I always think it's funny she teamed up with Nokapara and Blaze. I'm a real fan. I've read Roxy Get Serious, so I know her. I know the lore behind her. There's like nothing important in that series, Kyle. Not really. It's just as fun if you like Roxy. What you call it? Just more of her.
But that sets the stage here for.
Yeah, I really enjoyed her going back to the village and reuniting. And obviously, parallels Rudeus reuniting with his father. She's never been able to communicate telepathically, and all the Meagards do, and so she's always felt out of place and like ostracized from everyone else. She always felt like, no one wants me here. That kind of thing, where it's like she never felt wanted. Even her own parents communicated telepathically. So I mean, that sucks. Not even knowing what your own parents are saying. And so she comes home and she feels ostracized again, because she can't speak telepathically. So she's about to leave, and her mom's like, okay, well, at least visit every 20 years, and she's about to leave.
5-10 years at least.
And her mom's crying, and then she realizes, oh, he said they don't hate me. And she sees her old stuff up, and then she cries, and they all cry, and then she stays the night. It's like, oh, she got to meet with her parents again. That's nice.
It's not peak like the previous one, but it's still very nice.
I really like it.
Gives,
I really like it.
As like a side character, like an important side character, I enjoyed seeing that with Roxy. They gave Roxy important things to do, and I respect it. So all that is important, right? Because in the Shirane arc,
the big thing at the end with Roxy meeting Kishirika, she finds out where Zenith is.
Doesn't that happen later though?
Yeah, but it's still Roxy. But we can talk about that later. That's the happy return arc, as you've dubbed it.
Yeah,
we'll hit that then. Yeah.
So the reason why that's important for Shirane is Pax got wind of Rudeus being here and has set a trap. Has lured Rudeus in and is like, because at first he kidnapped Lilia and Aisha, who got away and was trying to send a letter out, but he kidnapped them to try to get her to come back. She didn't come back, so it's like, okay, well, if I kidnap Rudeus, also, what's the reason for why she didn't come back after? Did the word just never get out that? Oh yeah, no, because he said how is she gonna know that Lilia and Aisha are here, right? That's what he asks them.
Yeah, she left after the Mana Calamity to go search for Rudeus, and then Aisha and them came. Aisha and Lilia. And then Pax never released any information because he was like, well, Roxy's smart, she'll figure it out.
And then she never did.
Christ.
He's a stupid villain. So yeah, he kidnaps Rudeus, and he's gonna do the same thing. Rudeus is like, oh my god, I'm stuck down here. And the reason, okay, first I'll talk about the one very funny thing in this arc. Xanax. I know that's not his name.
Zenova.
Zenova. Zenova is Pax's. What?
Zenoba.
Sorry, Zenoba.
Zenoba, for some reason, does translate his name as Zenova.
Either way,
weird thing with the writing.
Zenova shows up, and he's like, "Oh, I have a." Why does he casually ask him about? Oh no, he's like, we searched through things, and you had a statuette. Oh, you had a statuette. Like, why do you have this? Right? That's what he asks.
Yeah, Ginger looked through his things and gave him the little Rougeard statue that Rudeus.
Oh yeah, and then he's like, this is similar to my $180 Roxy figure that no sane person would buy. Am I right?
I'm gonna buy one. Yes, I'm a Mushoku Tensei fan. I have to buy it. I'm a fake fan since I haven't bought one yet.
So they have a scene together, him and Zenoba, where he's like breaking down. Because at first Rudeus like, oh, I didn't make that. Like, just whatever. And then Zenoba says he breaks down literally like a minute or two of just him talking about this fucking statue. And then he's like, oh,
ever.
Yeah, and then he's like, oh, I took off the mole. And Rudeus is like, you motherfucker, and explains why he's wrong and about how like it's supposed to be like a nipple or something. I don't know, it's weird. And then Zenoba's like, oh my god, you're right, Sensei. Please let me help, or like, please help me. I wanna become your student. And he's like, okay, can you get me out of this? And he goes, Urethra, I'm gonna go crush my brother's skull. And then he goes, grabs Pax. It's revealed. Oh yeah, that he did do that. And we revealed that Zenoba is a gifted child, where he's just. You can explain more of that context in a second, but like, he's super strong, right? He's a gifted child. He like grabs his brother by the skull and is like, all right, you release this guy, or I'm killing you on the spot. Like, I'm killing you. And eventually he sets him free. And it's like, the reason why the guards were doing everything was because Pax had their families held hostage, Rougeard and Eris. It feels like it took the basic premise of Rudeus gets kidnapped, but it's not nearly as interesting in many aspects. The most entertaining part of it is Zenoba having the funny moment with him explaining the statue, but even then, like, it's not. I didn't find that had much substance to it. It was just like the series is great when Rudeus is able to gray rat his way out of a situation through his own, but just having this guy show up and be like, oh, hey, I'm going to free you just because I'm built different like this, and then free his own. It just kind of undercut it. Like, it's not a bad arc in theory. I just didn't like a couple of moments of its execution. You know, on the whole, it's like, oh, hey, you know, we got Aisha and Leah back. But it just felt like for getting two of his OG family members back, it felt like it should have been something bigger, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. I'm kind of lower on Shirone than other parts as well. For a lot of reasons, I think it's kind of a thing where it felt like it maybe had, like for how the plot was set up, I think maybe it felt like, one, it was resolved too easily, or B, it went on for too long. I really like it. Obviously, getting to see Aisha and Lilia again. Really good to be reunited with them. I also think that Pax is at this point a pretty one-dimensional villain.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, pretty much a thing where it's like, oh yeah, royalty is dumb, right? Okay, I get it, but he's almost comically dumb to a point where he almost kind of stands out in Mushoku Tensei, where it's like, in other isekais, it's like Pax is like the villain that you would expect, and be like, oh, okay. But in Mushoku Tensei, I think that the character writing is a lot better than every other isekai, pretty much.
I'm holding it in my
cases.
I want to interject with this, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I'm going to hold the character writing in Mushoku Tensei to a higher standard, because I believe the author is able to deliver on such a higher standard. Pax could have been more interesting. Like, make him some Rudeus where like he's a pervert kid, but like he's very one-dimensional, and I will hold that against the author for it. Of like, we're about to see you do better. Hey, do you know the man god? Yeah, I know the man god. Like, we're about to get to a good, like, we've seen good character writing already. Like we literally had the peak arc in the previous arc. Like character writing is something that this person can do. I don't know much about the author, and this person can do it very well. So just seeing Pax just be like, it's just kind of like a lame one-off. It just like it's just passing feeling, I guess. It's an okay arc.
I mean, Pax is your perverted, spoiled, noble child, right?
Hey, like Rudeus.
He's fine, right? But he is a bit of a weak character from Mushoku Tensei standards.
Yeah.
Even around other new characters from the arc, I like Zenoba a lot more, and obviously Zenoba's character is written to be more,
he's more funny,
more likable.
He has more working for him.
Yeah, even with Ginger, there's some different layers to Ginger as well.
Yeah, there's more.
Just kind of stands out, and yeah, again, it's kind of the fatigue of we already went through the whole Rudeus' captured thing.
Yeah, but there's not really much else to say. I mean, unless you have anything big, like
you get introduced to Zenoba, you rescue Lilia and Aisha. Aisha's at the end is like, goodbye, big brother. She knew the entire time. It's like, okay, yeah, she's smart. She's very smart.
It was a good ending. It was a good ending.
Yeah, it is. At the end of the day, it's a solid.
Did your mic cut out?
Yeah, I might have. Yeah, is that better?
Okay, cool. Yeah, your mic cut out.
At the end of the day, it's a solid arc.
It exists. I don't mind it. Like it being on the lower end of arcs, it's still higher quality than other like isekai.
Yeah.
Isekai, that's the true isekai like arcs where like it being lower could still rival like other mid to like maybe even higher tier arcs in other shows. Just because like it's naturally at a higher quality, but yeah, it's fine anyway.
Yeah, it does what it sets out to do.
We're at turning point 2, Brandon.
We're at turning point 2. Would you like to talk about turning point 2 first, Kyle?
I would love to.
That's
awesome.
It's
fun me. Before I do, who's the person's name with the mask?
Nanahoshi.
Nanahoshi. Okay, Nanahoshi. So, to set the stage, merry band of misfits, the dead end crew. They're going through the mountains with like a bull or something. Like they have their steed there carrying their stuff. They're just walking through and just chatting, and all of a sudden, Eris and Ruijerd act like they see they are witnessing God almost. Like they just like, oh God, don't move. We're in some deep shit. And Rudeus is like, I'm what? Like what's going on? And then from the wispy wind shadows of like farther down like this long hallway that they're walking through, like long area, we see Dragon God Orsted, and we see him walking with this person called Nanahoshi, and they're just walking through. And Rudeus, is told by them like, don't fuck with him. Like, just don't make eye contact. Don't fuck with him. Do not fuck with him. And then Rudeus decides to fuck with him because naturally Rudeus starts talking. Yeah, he starts talking with them. He asks him a question like, "What's your name?" First. Oh, Orsted talks first, right? Sorry.
Orsted, he's like, "Are you Ruijerd Superdia?" He talks to Ruijerd.
Sorry, sorry, but like, yeah, he talks. He ignores Rudeus for the most part. He talks about Ruijerd and Eris. He's like, "I know you guys," and then he leaves. And then Rudeus is like, "Hey, I'm Rudeus. Grey Rat, what's up? What's poppin', B? I'm Rudeus." And then they have a little talk for a moment where he's asking some questions back and forth, and Ruijerd and Eris are freaking the fuck out, like, what the fuck are you doing, Rudeus? Let's just move onward. And then comes the pivotal moment where he's just talking with them, and then Orsted asks, "Do you know the man God?" And then Rudeus is like, "Oh my God, yeah, I know the man God." And then what proceeds is a complete no diff, where Orsted knocks out Ruijerd, beats the fuck out of Eris, and then has a little, I can't even say skirmish because that implies there's a fight. A few things happen with Rudeus trying to fight back, and then Orsted just does the typical anime thing where he just hand knife stabs him through the gut and leaves him for dead. And then we see him talk to the man god for a little bit, and Rudeus is like, whatever, and the man god's like, "Hey, you're not like your normal self. What's going on?" And he's like, "As you can see, I'm dead." And the man god's like, "No, you're not, Lamau." And then he wakes up, and then because before he fades off into like man god land, we see Nanahoshi say something about like, "Wait, couldn't he be?" And then like ... And then Orsted decides to use healing magic to heal him, and then decides to leave. very like very interesting moment here. I obviously I love the moment. Brandon and I we memed about it the entire time we were rewatching it. Like we were getting up to that moment. We were just every once in a while we'd be like, "Hey, do you know the man got?" and just interrupt ourselves. It was fun. It was a fun build up, and knowing it was coming, it was very enjoyable to watch it actually unfold. Orsted has a lot of mystery surrounding him. He's strongest in the verse apparently because they even say, or he asks like the man god, like he's only the second power, right? And he's like, yeah, this guy who's above him, but if they were to fight for real, I mean, this dude would just cream. Like this dude would cream him. Let me rephrase. This dude would Orsted would just sweep. Orsted sweep. Orsted has a lot of curses surrounding him. Everyone's naturally afraid of him as one of his curses, and Rudeus is like, huh, maybe it's because I'm not from this world. And that like I like that as an explanation where it's like he's scared of everything in this world, but Rudeus is not of this world technically by default. It adds a lot of mystery to like why did Orsted do that? What does Orsted have against the man god? What is the man? It further perpetuates the mystery of what the fuck is this man god hiding? Who is Nanahoshi? Why did Orsted do what he did? He literally just beat the fuck out of all of them, healed them, and left. Refused to elaborate, leaves. It basically does that meme. And yeah, it's a good moment. It's a good moment. And from what Brandon said, it's the least important, like in the grand scale of turning points, but it's still a very important turning point. And I had fun watching this. I shouldn't say I had fun watching it because it's a very unfortunate situation where the party gets wiped. Like this is the first time we see Rougerd gets beaten because as Brandon has explained, he's an emperor level, which is like second only to god level in terms of like power scaling. Like he could beat if they fought like at full power, he could beat Ghislaine. Like most of the people we've seen so far, Rougerd could beat. He in fact met a brick wall he could not beat that day and got absolutely clapped.
Bro got no diff.
And then yeah, afterward he's like, so Rudeus, you got some explaining to do. And they talk. But yeah, so those are kind of my thoughts on it. Very, very enjoyable section. The reason I'm being so like vague about it right now is I don't really know, like I don't really have the context of everything for like why Orsted did that. Like I feel like looking back on Turning Point 2, I could say more about it once I know more of why he did it. It's kind of like Turning Point 1 where it's like it's a very interesting moment. It's cool. I don't know why the Mana Calamity happened, and the same thing here, like I don't know why Orsted just did that. I assume he has something against the man god. He's gonna kill him, but yeah, that's about it. So
he took on
Brandon
himself as like, because Rudeus asked him like, why did he attack him? He's like, oh, because, and Hitogami was like, oh, because the dragon god hates me and wants to kill me.
Oh yeah, he tried wording it like Orsted was evil and I'm good. That's how he tried spinning it, but I'm not.
Because the evil dragon god wants to kill the good me. I think that's almost exactly what he said.
Yeah, I'm not buying what he's selling. Thanks.
Yeah, Turning Point 2. Probably the least eventful turning point. Maybe. It's hard to say because all the turning points are so impactful. Because Turning Point 2 pretty directly leads to Eris leaving Rudeus. I would say without Turning Point 2 that doesn't happen. And obviously that's a pretty big event to happen. Turning Point 2, obviously pretty important, right? I am not at liberty to say much else about Turning Point 2, other than it's pretty badass. Getting to see Orsted, who's my second favorite character after Rudeus. Eris is number 5. I love Orsted. I love everything to do with him. Kinji Suda, I think, is his voice actor's name, because he's the same guy that voices Kento Nanami from Jujutsu Kaisen. He does a great job portraying Orsted. Just getting to see all of it is sick. I remember, it's so cool because he's like, oh, Rougerd, like, talking to them, and then, oh my gosh, this line always stuck with me after I first read it for the first time. So whenever he's talking to Rudeus, and he's like, what's your name? Rudeus Greyrat. And he's like Greyrat. He's like, what line? He's like, oh, I'm the son of Paul Greyrat. And he's like, Paul's not supposed to have a son. He only has 2 daughters. And it's like, I remember that line always stuck. I was like, what's he cooking?
Didn't I say something about that earlier when we first watched it? I was like, I feel like Rudeus is an anomaly, under the influence of Man God. Like I feel like he can't. Orsted, it feels Orsted and Hitogami. It's like they can both kind of see things, but they can't see the other's influence. Where he's like, yeah, I couldn't see, like, I didn't know Orsted was going to show up. Like, I would not have told you to approach that. And Orsted's like, Paul is like, you're an anomaly. You shouldn't exist. Paul's supposed to have 2 kids. Why are you here? Like, that line stuck out to me too. I didn't remember it until you brought it up. Yeah, it's like, what do you mean by that?
And then
Like,
and then they
it
fight
clearly it's not
funny-
like. Sorry, so go on.
Oh no, you can say what you were gonna say.
I was gonna say, like, it's not. I don't think it's like because the Hitogami is like present and future vision or whatever. But like this guy, it's like I wouldn't call it like a time vision or whatever, because it's like he at that point, like, he should know of them. He should know who Rudeus is if he can see in like the future or whatever. So I don't think it's like future or like past vision. It's like there's some sort of like omnipotence at play that he just. It's just like I can't perceive you, Rudeus, for whatever reason. It's like he's only supposed to have. I assume he's never met Paul in his life, and it's like, oh, only Paul's supposed to have 2 kids. Like, how do you know that? But yet, how do you know that he has 2 kids, but not know about Rudeus? That's the mystery here.
There's a lot of good mystery that's being set up in the whole season.
Yes, the 2 turning points have done that very well. I give mad props to the mystery that these, especially Turning Point's such a cool name for it too.
That is, it's very cool. It's also, talking about it, if you're watching and you know Mushoku Tensei, you're like, oh yeah, the turning points, right? The funny 5 turning points, right? And then at the end of it, you have him talking to Hitogami, which I really like. And then at the beginning of the next episode, you kind of have the scene where it's like, oh, he's like seeing all the people and they're like going away from him. He's like, don't leave, because of like the PTSD from like dying, and then being healed. I can go ahead and tell you it was revealed in the manga and the light novel what Orsted's 3 curses were. I don't know why they didn't say them in the anime. The first curse is the curse of hatred. The second curse is the curse to be unable to go all out, which I can't describe anymore. And the third curse is to not be able to be seen by Hitogami. Those are the 3 curses that Orsted has.
Oh, neat.
So
the hatred
it's
one
one
is
of those things where it's like I don't know why that wasn't explicitly said in the anime, maybe just to save time. But it was said at this point. It's just like with the Eris Goblin Slayer episode, the Reese Latria being Xena's sister, that's stuff that we knew at this point.
Yeah. So, because in this case, it's so everything like fears him basically. Like he's and I wouldn't word it as
curse that Laplace had.
Yeah, I wouldn't word it as hatred. It's just like, I mean, it kind of is, but it's more of like a fear of like they see him and it's like
it's a fear / hatred. I think most translations that I've read use curse of hatred because that's how I remember it, but maybe the subtitles did say curse of fear.
And Nanahoshi's interesting
right?
too, because Nanahoshi doesn't seem to express that. Like there's something's cooking with that. And then the second one is not being able to go all out, and you've explained, like you said, like you can't really go into more detail. And then the third one is not being able to be seen by man god. That, I think, of the 3 is the one I'm peeved the most about. Like, why that specific curse? Yeah. But that happens, and then unless you have anything else to say, I think we can just move on to the final arc.
Basically, the last thing is you have him waking up, and then Eris being very sad and being like, like don't leave me, like you almost died, like idiot, baka, funny anime.
And it's a
very touching scene.
That is a very important moment because it ties directly into the happy, fun return arc. Yay!
Yeah, everyone's happy. Everyone's happy.
I can explain this arc in the short way and in the long way. Short way, Rudeus canonically fucks. The long way, they arrive back and they say their goodbyes to Jared. Wholesome moment. It's sad seeing him go. They go to the main camp. Ghislaine's there. This butler guy from like the mansion or whatever is there, and like they're like, the guy's like, we're considering giving her up to one of the Grey Rat Lords because like we really need the help to rebuild our kingdom here. So there's some drama there, and then at night they're like sitting there, and the Eris comes into his tent, and then it's like they just have sex. I don't know how else to word. They have sex. They have sex with each other.
They do.
They have sex, and he wakes up, and he's just like all happy and preppy and cheery. He wakes up, he's like, "Good morning, everyone." He's the thought narration. He's like, "Why do you look so glum, pal? I just hooked." And he walks into the tent. He's like, "Oh, where did that little scamp run off to? I sure hope she doesn't abandon me for 2 years." And then he sees the note, And then yeah, it's basically Eris says, "We're not compatible right now. I'm leaving. I need to go do my own thing for." I mean, you could. I'm not wording it correctly. Like you can fix it later, obviously, but like
No, we're not
she needs to
compatible right
go.
now is the official manga translation.
Oh, neat, sweet. That's so weird.
I was like, that's really odd that you would word it like that, because I don't think I've ever said, because I said my preferred translation is the "we're not a good match right now," but the manga one translation is "we're not compatible right now." I can't. I think it's a manga. Off the top of my head, it's a manga, but that is a translation of it. So I was like, that's odd that it words it like that, because that wasn't the anime translation of it.
I think compatible. I think compatible strikes a even deeper chord. Like to say like we're not good for each other right now versus we're not compatible. Like that word, that slight changing speaks to more volumes. And I think compatible is a good word choice there. Of like, damn, like you really didn't have to do it to Rudeus like that. And then Rudeus falls back into his slump. It's like, oh man, I just had sex and I scared her away. Damn it. I mean, that's not really what happens, but like he just falls into a slump, and the dude's like, "Hey, look, I let you sleep. Can you just like, I can't let you do this forever. Like, we put up with it for long enough. I've given you your time, given what happened. You gotta shit or get off the pot." And that's exactly what I said when we were watching it. Like, you gotta shit or get off the pot here, Rudeus. And he has a flashback to his previous moments in life where like he got bullied. He said like, "Hey, you can't skip in line." Some kids threw basketballs at him, and like he was stuck up in his room, and he was just too scared to get up. And he kind of thinks back to that now, and he's like, "I can't, like, all this can't be for nothing. I can't have gone through all this." I mean, that's not what he says, but like this is my interpretation, where it's like he's just thinking to himself like, I can't do it. Like, I can't have gone through all this and just not move forward. I have to move forward. I have to leave. And he leaves and sets off for whatever his journey is. And we see Eris goes with Ghislaine to train and like hone herself better. And she's like, "Yeah, I've become too dependent on him. He's younger than me, but he like is just so spectacular, and I always feel like I'm leaning on him as a crutch. I have to start standing on my own 2 feet, and that's why I have to leave him. And I have to come back when I'm ready to like when I have my ducks in a row. I will go see him, and it will be glorious. But for now, I just can't be with him." And then we see some other characters prepping stuff, like Geese going through the desert, the drinking contest with the guy who's in Roxy's current party, and we see Kisharika tells Roxy about like where Zenith is, and then we see, oh yeah, no, I remember, it was Rudeus like, "You know what? I gotta go find my mom. I have to go find Zenith," and then he sets off to go do that.
Yeah.
And then there's some other bigger details I'm probably missing, because I'm kind of going through pretty quick. So I'm slowly fading, you know. But I will say this before you explain it, and then we talk about like the big thing. This was a bittersweet return arc where they got back. Things are obviously not right. It's been 3 years. They're still like, it's still in shambles. They're slowly building back up. They went from "it's so over" to "we are so back," and then Rudeus went from "we are so back" to "it's so over" to "we are so back" in the span of this arc.
I want to correct something that he did not get to "we." He is still very much so in the "it is so over." He just simply said he's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna get up and go find mom, I guess."
Yeah,
I do want to clarify that misconception. He is not back.
Fair enough. I was memeing, but yeah, he's like, I guess I should. He decides to move forward to not return to stagnation like he did in his previous life, and I respect that. And as the last arc to season 1, this was a very good ending point where we see characters making moves. We see the main character being like, "All right, I gotta go look for my mom." We see, I think the stuff with Eris was the most compelling. Of like, I gotta stop relying on you. I can't keep doing this forever. I have to go stand on my own 2 feet. Goodbye for now, and left. And like that was just interesting. Like I found that coming through it. I love Eris as a character. I mean, so far, right? Like I only
Same
want season 3.
If you'll believe it.
I don't think you like her. I think I like her more than you. That's crazy, but it's hard to believe. But she's a great character, and seeing this be where it's like, she's avoiding a toxic relationship in a way, and I respect that. It's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to separate, to be like, okay, we're gonna be together again at some point, but not like, it can't be right now. Like setting her foot down and being like, all right, And this demonstrates just how mature she's become. Because the old her would have leaned on Rudeus, and now the current her is like, I gotta go be my own person, dude. I'm sorry. And then leaves. And then Rudeus sets off on his little journey, and eventually their paths will meet. But for now, it ends on a bittersweet note, and I think that was a strong place to end the series for season 1. I mean, sorry. Yeah, those are my thoughts on it. Before we'll talk about the concluding thoughts in a moment. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the Happy Return arc?
Yeah, I mean, this is devastating for me to watch every single time. Absolutely devastating. I think that
It's
it's
so
written very
over.
well to the point where like it's impressive. Like I don't typically get like emotional when I watch stuff, but like this part is always hard for me to watch. Just starting with the breakup of Dead End when Rougier leaves. Like he's like, you guys are warriors now. You guys don't need me. I'm going to go and try to find more of my people, and I'm going to continue to work to, restore my name. And he said, you guys don't need me anymore. And it's always hard to watch.
You're all grown up.
Because
You're all grown up.
the journey's over. This entire journey, looking back on all of it, it's over. They've reached their destination, and then of course everything with Eris, where she finds out her family's dead. Her having sex with Rudeus and all that. Just
Coping sex.
That's so true. It's equally as devastating, I think, for them to see the state that their home is in, and to finally see everything. And it's like, okay, the journey's over, right? We get the climax of their relationship, and then she leaves him because we're not a good fit right now, and or we're not compatible right now. That is a good translation. And it sucks because it's the thing where you completely understand her perspective on it, but man, she worded it horribly, and just the effect that has on Rudeus, man, because dude,
I don't think. Okay, no. I want to say I don't. I'm gonna stand on this. I don't think saying we're not compatible is a bad. Like it sucks, but like I don't think that's a bad word. It's a wording that's absolutely devastating to Rudeus, but I think like that it's like a wake up call wording of like we're not compatible.
Like when you understand her perspective, it's like, yeah, it makes sense. Like I completely understand why she wrote it like that, but at the same time, like in terms of ouch, how Rudeus is misunderstanding this.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
It's very easy to misunderstand without knowing her. But like once you know her perspective, it's like, okay, I understand why she wrote it.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's just, man, just the way that he misunderstood it. It's like, I mean, how else would you take it? Rudeus isn't gonna be like, oh, she doesn't feel like she's strong enough to be next to me, so she needs to go in and train and stuff. Why would he take it like that? And it absolutely destroys him because it's the first time that he's ever been intimate with someone. It's the first time he's ever really felt this way about someone. He's come all this way. He's done all this stuff with her, and she just leaves him out of nowhere without even saying anything, just like cutting her hair and leaving a note that says we're not compatible right now.
Look, all she's doing is just getting shockwaves to finish the job like that.
That's so true. And then he slips back into a depression where he doesn't want to leave the room. This is the worst we've seen him since he came to this world, where he essentially, and it just very much.
I'm gonna disagree, Brandon. I'm gonna disagree. I think the worst we saw him is when he died.
That's true. That's so true.
Like in terms of mental health. Wow, this is the worst.
And we see that where we get to see kind of the origin of him becoming a shut-in, where he's bullied at school and he's hung from the thing, and
it's his canon.
It's his canon event. That's so true. And just getting to see all that, and then getting to see once again his parents, in his old life, and being like, we'll do this for you. You got to move on. Just come out when you're comfortable. Again saying that like the enabler. I mean, I'm certain that they were trying their best, but yeah, they were enablers. They enabled him to be a shut-in. Where he's like, how can I? He's like, how can I take a step forward? He's like, and one of the things he says is, I had people in my life that reached out to me, that tried to help. I always turned them away, and at some point they just stopped. And then I was like, well, then what's the point of trying anymore? And then it's the thing of what's his motivation going to be now? And he remembers back. He remembers Zenith and how she's still missing. He remembers that, and he's like, I have to go try to save her. And he gets up, and he straps on his boots, and he's gonna go save Zenith. And and then that's his motivation to get up. He gets up on his
That's
own.
where it ends.
And I think that is a great little culmination of his little arc so far for season 1, where a lot of the time throughout season 1, obviously he's done a lot on his own, but comparing to what I said about Roxy at the beginning, it was Roxy picking him up and carrying him across the gate that cured him. Here we see that now he has grown and he is strong enough to overcome
Pick himself
that
up
on his own.
Yeah.
And, he's still hurt, right? He's still absolutely devastated from Eris leaving him, right? Just absolutely crushed by it. But he got
It's so over.
He stood up on his own, and he's moving forward. And it's like, it's sad. It's hard for me to watch, but it shows how much he's grown, I think, in a lot of ways. That he can get up on his own and do that. And yeah. And that's
Now look, saying all this, disregard the past hour or two. 0 out of 10 pedophile show. Shouldn't watch it.
Yeah, obviously it's the goofy, the funny pedophile show that only pedophiles.
The funny ass show.
And
Yeah, that was.
Reyes has 0 redeeming qualities, and he's just a pedophile. And I hate him.
That was season 1, and I gotta say, it's one of the more interesting experiences I've had. Because I like, look, this isn't a secret. I can share with you, lovely viewers. I'm not a big isekai guy. There's a few I like Konosuba for its comedy, Shield Hero, because season 1 was really good, and then now Fumiko is kind of boring, as I've heard and seen from my own perspectives and hearing it from other people later on. But it's like I don't find myself too engrossed in isekai, but I feel like this series, Mushoku Tensei, does everything right. With it does everything that I wish isekai would do more consistently. It just, on the whole, right, even excluding that element, it has compelling characters that aren't perfect. You have a wide variety of characters' morals. You have an interesting world building with its fun magic system, physical fighting, magic. You can do a mix of both. There's a lot of variety in the species. I love the adversities, because a lot of the adversity that characters have, not a lot, but a lot of it is just communication based wording, the biggest one being misunderstandings. Laying yourself in hot water with what you say. Be careful. Think things through. Do you know the human god? Yeah, I know the human god. Please don't murder me, Orsted. Stuff like that. There's a lot about this series that I enjoy, and I am very happy that I got the nudge. You can say a little nudge at gunpoint, but I got the nudge to watch it. Nah, I wasn't forced. I'm just throwing it up there. I'm just throwing it up there that I was forced to. I'm just throwing it up there.
You offered the trade, mister. You offered the trade initially. You said what? You said
Brandon. I'm joking. Don't worry. I'm joking. Don't worry.
What am I watching? You offered.
I'm joking. I'm joking. Don't worry.
But yes. I'll put the gun down now. I'll put the gun down now.
Okay. Thank you. Now that I denied the fact that I was held the gunpoint, you can put the gun down. Yeah. And I didn't really know, because I'll be honest. At first, I was like, oh man, this is how is this Brandon's top 1? I mean, it's just an isekai. And I watched, I'm okay. I can walk out of it saying this. I like this show a lot. In terms of top, giving it an objective number or whatever. I'm not gonna throw it in my top 10, right? I got other stuff. It's not that it's bad. There's just other stuff I like more, that type of stuff. But I completely would understand why a Mushoku Tensei fan loves this series, and especially why they would put it in their top 1. I might not feel that way, but hey, I'm with you. I can see your perspective on it. Your series is great. Don't let the people who it's it was that meme of the miner digging for gold, and he turns around and it's inches away from hitting diamonds.
Yeah,
it feels like that, the series. It's not that you have to go through shit to get to it, but it's you have to dig a little bit deeper to get to the meat on the bones. You have to be
willing to experience.
Get your hands dirty.
It's not a mind off kind of series.
Yeah, it's not a generic.
I think a lot of people approach it that way. They're like, oh, funny isekai. Oh,
do you love your mom? Your 2-hit multi-target attacks. It's nothing like that.
Turn off my brain and let me see the main character get some hoes. It's not that. It's not that.
It's not.
It's isekai has become very dumbed down recently.
Yes.
Very, very bogged down by a bunch of trash. right?
Very.
My perspective is, if I can go on into my thoughts of season 1 as a whole.
Go ahead.
Briefly.
Yeah.
It's Mushoku Tensei is, I don't think I've said this yet, it's a perfect isekai. I think that in terms of what an isekai should be, Mushoku Tensei is the gold standard of what an isekai should be.
And I would agree.
I think that
every
fully
isekai
explores in another world better than any other isekai that I've read. And I've read a lot. I've read a lot of isekai.
You've read a lot of trash, I'm guessing.
I have gone through a lot of isekai, right? I know isekai. And Mushoku Tensei is a perfect isekai, in my opinion. It does everything that I think an isekai should do. And I think that the intro is absolutely phenomenal. I say the intro, season 1, right? I consider all of this, right, the first 6 light novel volumes, like quote unquote, the intro of Mushoku Tensei. It's like, okay, we get introduced to the main character and some of the immediate contributors, right? Then Turning Point 1 happens. And okay, we get introduced to the world and kind of get to see our characters grow a bit. And we get introduced to a lot of the supporting cast, right? And a lot of the kind of ideas kind of going forward. We get a lot of mystery set up that will have maybe some payoff later, with Hitogami and the Dragon God and all those kinds of things. We get that kind of stuff set up. And then at the end, another earth-shattering events happen. It's not a turning point, Eris leaving Rudeus, but it's like, okay, everything that has been built up to or towards now has been resolved, right? Essentially, on a basic level, the Turning Point 1 has happened, right? The Man of Calamity, Rudeus has brought Eris back home. Rugier's gone, Eris is gone, Rudeus is on his own. It's kind of like, not a fully blank slate, but it's kind of like, okay, stop and catch your breath. We've seen the world, right? We're back. We're back to the Fatoa region. So I consider this kind of quote-unquote the intro to Mushoku Tensei. I have seen this bit of media, the content covered in this one season, probably more so than any other media, except for maybe the first bit of Attack on Titan, which I have read a ton. Maybe Star Wars. But, I mean, I absolutely love season one material. I think that it's a perfect isekai, and now, I am thrilled for season 2.
There are 2 things I want to say. One, in my tired, stricken brain, when you said the episode, like the moment where Eris left Rudeus, I thought it's not turning point, it's turning joints, if you know what I mean.
That's so true.
I'm sorry. And the second one,
bro.
And the second one I was going to say is, I think some of the best type of what you could say is art out there is the art that it makes you feel disturbed or grossed out. Like it makes you question a lot of what you're seeing. It's interactive. It makes you think. That's kind of the whole thing and like what you said, like a lot of like trash, like turn your brain off shows. Like I can't stand watching the shows now. Like I used to like when I was younger, but my taste, I'll say it, my taste weren't as refined, I would say. But like just watching stuff where it's just like the cash grabby generic-y of like, do you love your mom? Do you multi-tax? Do you? It's the Isekai cheat magicians. It's those types of ones where it's like you just turn your brain off and you just, or like there's another one and I watched it and I liked it, but it's just like the 300-year-old witch one, like stuff like that. That one's a little bit better, but like just stuff like that where it's just like you kind of turn off your brain. It's just like, I don't care about that type of stuff. I like watching something and being actively engaged with it. And it felt like Mushoku Tensei was constantly, at every point, right? Even in Shirone, constantly actively engaged with it. I never felt like for longer than like a little, because there's some times where you show like montages, but like it always felt like in every episode there was something I was like reacting to, thinking of, being like, our main character gray ratting it up, snooping at children, I see, doing stuff like that. You're always constantly thinking like, man, this character is like bad, or like, man, this like there's some depth here. Like it's never leaving you high and dry without a thing to think about, and that's what I enjoy about it. It's constantly like allowing the viewer to like impose their own thoughts on things instead of just being like, oh, let me turn my brain off and watch this stuff happen. Because it's just, I respect Mushoku Tensei for a lot of what it says. If I had to like give like a final ending note, I would say this is a fantastic show, for the people who didn't give it a chance, I'd say give it a chance because, like the main theme of the show, people can change and your thoughts can change. You might start out thinking this is an awful show. I'm sure a lot of you guys don't like it. All 20 people watching this, some of you might not have liked it. I hope as well. I hope a lot of people see this because peak fiction, peak fiction, peak fiction.
It's peak fiction.
Yeah,
Peak
I hope
fiction.
I hope that the people who don't like it can change. Funny change, funny goofy main theme of story. I hope people can change their minds on it. I hope that they'll give it another chance and see that it's not just some stupid smarmy crap of like a perverted main character getting the hose. Like there's a lot of depth here, and I think it needs to get some more attention for the effort it puts in and the slander it gets from what I can only go off what I heard from Brandon, but like the apparent slander it gets from like just how good of a series it is makes me sad, man. And I just wish Mushoku Tensei got more respect. And the last thing I can say on it before I talk about like some of the characters I like is, I mean, if we have time, it's a great show. Give it a chance. It's fun and it's actively engaging. There's a lot of depth to it. You won't regret it. And I cannot wait for season 2. Brandon, what do you have to say?
It's peak fiction. It's peak fiction. And it's my top 1 series, so I'm not even lying when I say that. I'm not even saying that ironically. It's peak
now,
fiction.
Brandon, if you had to address some of the common criticisms with it, because we talked about like the main one, like what are some other criticisms the show gets? Or like another 1 or 2 topics, because then I want to talk about some characters that we can call it. Because this video, I assume, has gone on for a while.
Yeah, it's gone on for a little bit. I mean, the main one is the pedophile thing. You know, we've talked on that. Where it's just, you know, I mean that's what people see and that's what people hear. They're like, oh, I mean,
that is how they talk. Yes.
Because I mean, the people who get past that and you know are like, maybe this is an interesting character thing, right? Or you know, they understand, you know, it's not just a brain off kind of series. You know, at that point, you know, kind of as you know, you were thinking, you know, you know, Shirone maybe a little bit less, but there's not a ton to criticize with it. Because I mean, if you're watching through it, you know, you're a fan of isekai probably to some degree. If nothing else, you can appreciate a good one. So I mean,
same here.
You know, I would say maybe another criticism that I've heard is it's like, oh, it's a, you know, funny harem anime. I mean, yeah, I mean it's an isekai, right? And
oh yeah, my favorite harem characters, Eris, Rouge-Haired.
That's so true. You know, I mean, the big thing is the whole, you know, it's a funny pedophile show.
It is a funny show.
The people who get through that really like it. I mean, it's pretty popular. What you call it? I mean, currently it is the second most anticipated anime
behind Jujutsu Kaisen.
Behind 1,000 Year Blood War is coming back.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Jujutsu Kaisen is actually under it.
Wow.
In terms of
that's
on
crazy.
On my anime list, more people have Jujutsu Kaisen season 2 favorited as opposed to Mushoku Tensei. Mushoku Tensei is number 2 under Jujutsu Kaisen. It's not even close to number 3. It's those two at top. But on a poll done recently on the most anticipated anime for what is this summer 23?
Yeah.
Mushoku Tensei was number 2 under 1,000 Year Blood War, just barely. And I was like,
man, pedophiles eating good today.
You know, I think that it's just the people who give Mushoku Tensei a chance are often like you. You know, every once in a while you have someone like me who is like, this is literally everything that I'm looking for in a series, and I love every second of it. You know, obviously that's a bit rare. Most people like you who come in are like this has really solid character writing, this is really solid plots. You know, maybe there's some parts that I enjoy less than others, but I mean, like, you know, people like you, Kyle, who can appreciate it, right?
Yeah.
Who can sit down and be like, this isn't a brain off kind of scene.
You know what? Here, let me get you. And
I think, and I will also say, season 2, especially when it ends, there's gonna be some new fans.
There will be a lot more people fighting for the
guys, it's not funny pedophile show. There's gonna be a lot more of that because it's covering through volume 12, and volume 12 is another one of my favorite volumes.
Here's what I'll say: if I had to compare
12,
it, I would compare a lot of these people to Rudeus in the base world, where they're just stuck and they refuse to go forward, and like they're content with stagnation and not giving it a chance. Like, I'm a big fan, right? I think of this, right? If I'm gonna give a show a chance, despite like how weak some of the early bits are, like, I will give season 1 a chance. Like, I will watch season 1 and I will judge from there. Like, I mean, like, this is complete non sequitur, but like stuff like BoJack Horseman, it's pretty weak in its first part. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it's a pretty weak, but like, it's an incredible TV show. Episode 3 is probably like my least favorite one, but like, I watched all season 1. I'm like, damn, this shit kind of go hard. It's a good show. And like, applying that to anime, like I will usually give season 1 of anime a chance. Like, even if I'm watching the first show, I'm like, kind of whatever. Well, if it's it's airing weekly, I'll watch it. I'll watch the end of the season. I'll wait and decide, because I do think some authors take more or less time to get started pretty well than others. And I think with Mushoku Tensei, like, watching episode 1, then dropping it's a crime. Like, that's not really giving it a fair chance. I mean, episode 1, there's only so much you can do in 20 minutes to set up what you want to say. And in the case of it, like, it's just him being born, and it's not slow, but like it takes more of its time showing him being born and everything. Like, you don't get to see that growth. You don't get to see what makes your show. You don't. Was it rushed? I mean, I don't know.
I said me when it doesn't rush.
Oh, yeah. You can't judge an entire series, like, like the whole thing, like, judged by its cover. Well, even then, like, you flip to page 1, you read it, you're like, oh, I hate this. Like, you just snore off. Like, you can't judge the whole thing based on just episode 1 alone. Like, you gotta give it a fair chance here. Maybe it has something important to say. And some shows it's easier to tell than others. Like, if you start up a generic crap Isekai, you can probably go, okay, there's not really much here for me. And you watch something like this, you're like, okay, there's something it's trying to say. Maybe I should stick around. And I think people should. Yeah. On the whole, really like the show. Think more people should give it a chance. And I can't wait to do our weekly season 2 discussion with it. So
So going into season 2, what are you expecting?
I expect Cliff. I expect Cliff's going to be his rival.
Yeah.
We talked about that. So, quick last thing, like the OVA episode
wasn't like a of confirmation. That was just like a
I know what you mean. Eris went to go slay goblins. Met this dude named Cliff, who's like, I see him as like a mirror or an antithesis to Rudeus, where like they're very similar in that he's very talented. He had like some sad backstory stuff. He's like super gifted. And he's very similar to Rudeus, but Rudeus is humble, whereas this dude is not humbled. And he has a grudge against Rudeus in the OVA of like, Eris likes this Rudeus guy. I feel like an OVA showing something like that would be like kind of like a wasted Chekhov's gun. And I know it's an OVA, but like, it still matters. So I feel like Cliff's gonna come back, and if it's a magic school, not to say I think it's gonna be bland in what I say, but like, I think it's gonna follow some of the magic school tropes, and I feel like the rival's gonna be a fun one, because seeing Rudeus fight Cliff is like a water fire mage, like two geniuses duking it. That like, inversely, I don't think it's gonna be boring. I think it's gonna be awesome seeing Rudeus be like, nah, you just have these misconceptions about Eris. Like, I'll fight the defender on her. Fuck it, and just knock this kid's shit around. Like, I think that'll be funny. I know. I feel like Sylphie's gonna play a major role in season 2, because like Sylphie was the little childhood friend, and they've teased it, right? Like the teaser trailer had her in it. The ending of season 1 had like shown her a bit of like, it's like, why do you think we should recruit Rudeus? Like, I feel like it's gonna be a lot more Sylphie centered. And I feel like turning point 3 around then might be when Eris shows back up, because I feel like the first half of season 2 is going to be like 26 or 24 episodes, right?
Episodes, if I'm remembering correctly. 25 episodes.
Yeah, I feel like the first half of that's going to deal with the magic school, because you said, I mean, not that you like spoiled anything, but you said like the second half of season 3 is going to deal with turning point 3. So I feel like it's gonna be like, oh, happy, fun magic school, and then turning point 3 is gonna happen, and everyone's gonna do like the meme of the guy with his hands on the face, like, oh my god, the school is burning down. Orsted and his wife Gorsted are here. What do we do? Like, yeah, I feel like first half season 2 is gonna be a lot of the magic school stuff, and it's gonna be the school that they wanted to go to. Sylphie's gonna change. Sylphie, I feel like Sylphie might be an antagonist. I feel like that's gonna happen later. She's gonna be like, Rudeus, please just listen to me, right? Like my clan, right? The group, like we don't wear white hoods because we want, like, it's just tradition. I feel like something like that might happen where she's in with the wrong group because it's like Rudeus wasn't there to keep her away from the wrong group, and he's gonna blame himself. And then second half's gonna be Turning Point 3, and I don't really know much more of what to say on that. I mean, it's hard to predict just given the direction that the show went.
That is
like
very interesting.
Yeah, if you would have told me from the first 4 episodes, like, what do you think's gonna happen? I would not have predicted a fucking mana catastrophe and Orsted being like, yeah, Hitogami, Omae basic kill you meme.
Considered die.
Yeah, I'll introduce you to Die. Death God's pretty cool. He's weaker than I am, and Rude's like, wait, what? Man, this food sucks. Yeah, I know it does.
I told Kyle about the extra chapter in the light novel where we get to meet the Death God for the first time.
Where he's like a crappy cook at that restaurant that he speaks to Paul at.
No, it's not. It's not that one. It's not that one. It's a different restaurant.
Oh, sorry. Regardless, like
no. It's all good. It can be kind of confusing. Yeah. It's a different.
And then I'd say that's my prediction. And then to cap it off, I guess I could talk about some of my favorite characters as the last little bit. Because how long has this recording been?
2 hours, 14 minutes, 13 seconds, and counting.
Awesome. This is easily one of our longest videos.
This is the longest episode we've ever recorded.
Hey, you know what? It
beat out Chimera Ant Part 3, and I think it was Namek was the one I had to split into 2 for Dragon Ball Z.
Don't this just paint a smile on your face knowing that we talked about it this long?
Dude, this is the easiest recording I've ever done.
I know. That's how
it's so easy to talk about your favorite series. I get it with JoJo's. I get it.
Yeah, like we're gonna go back to JoJo's eventually. But anyway. So some of my favorite characters, right? I can't discount the big 3. Rudeus, this is no particular order, by the way. Rudeus, Eris, and Rougier, they're pretty cool. Like, I'm not super huge on Rougier. Like, I like him, but I would not, if I had to make a hypothetical top 10, I don't know if he would land up there. Like, I like, and that might sound, I don't know how that is, like how that sounds. Rudeus and Eris, great characters. He's a great compelling main character. She's a great, I'll call her the deuteragonist. I mean, she's the main secondary character that we follow for a while.
She essentially is.
Paul's up there. I think the moral complexity of Paul deserves to land in that spot alone. Kishirika, Risu, that's her name, right?
Yep.
Let's fucking go. She's definitely up there. She, like, for no reason other than, like, I think the anime it low diffs it. It like the animation on her, she's just so, it captured her energy, voice acting, everything. She's so vibrant for being like a demon god. Which is, and Brandon said, like, if she were at her full power, she'd be in like the top 10 of the verse, which is pretty interesting.
I'd say she probably would be maybe 5. I think she might edge up. No, actually, I lied to you. I'm sorry.
Death God's gonna cook and kill her.
I lied to you. I don't know if she'd be top 7 of full power. Maybe.
Still top 10 at least. 5, 10 at least.
That's so true.
I've made that joke like 5 fucking times tonight.
It's a good joke.
Anyway.
It's a good joke. It doesn't get old. It never gets old.
Because of how bad it is. Anyway, I gotta give it, like, out of sheer bias alone, I gotta give it to Orsted. Orsted was funny. It's just
Icy.
I mean, like, just simply the line alone of, do you know the human god? And his immediate reaction, Rudeus being like, yeah, I do. Just that alone cements the fact that he's high up. Roxy's great. I like Roxy. Roxy's fun. Might be a sleeper tier. Maybe not for top 10. Aisha was fun. Aisha was a nice character.
I really like Aisha.
I'm trying to think through everything. Just going through it all in my head about what happens. Elf Lady's really funny.
Annalise.
You know what? If you want to edit it in for like a couple seconds, I will make a Mushoku Tensei character tier list of season 1 characters, and just like I could throw it in.
unless you're
If-
going
if-
to do that in the 5 minutes after the recording whenever I throw this into the editor. I think we might have to wait on that one.
Oh,
we
that's
can
fair.
we can do an official character tier list if you were so inclined. We could
I
record
would-
it. That could be fun.
I would do that. Yeah.
That could be fun.
Yeah.
Lino
So
volumes 1 through 25. You're just gonna have to guess with some of them.
yeah. Anyway. What else? What else? Ishirishu's cool. Ghislaine. How could I forget Madam Titty Kitty herself?
Madam
Because
Titty
apparently
Kitty
that's what
herself.
Brandon told me. That's what the Rudeus called her in the manga or light novel.
Sadly, it is the fan translation.
Oh.
Seven Seas was not brave enough to translate it as Madam Titty Kitty, but that is the translation in our hearts.
It's so over. But we are so back because she okay, it's more of like less bias here, right? Like she's a great character. She's fun. I like a lot of what she brought to the table. Just introducing the moment where he like knocks on part of her and it just makes like a thunk noise. It's great. She has funny moments, like really funny moments, and I liked getting to see more of her backstory in the Beast People Woods. I'd have to marinate more on it, but like those characters I like all those. I mean, there's a lot of characters here, but those some good characters here. I mean, Human God. I assume you want to hear my thoughts on him. I don't know if in like a top 10. I'd have to see more of him, obviously, but like he's a funky little critter. By little, I mean he's probably like cosmic level, but he's a funky little critter.
He is intentionally
Acting this way,
vague, I guess,
Yeah.
at this point in the story.
Yeah,
you're supposed to be asking questions about Hitogami and Orsted. That's the funny mystery of it. Hitogami, like, naturally you're sus of him, right? It's like, who's this guy prattling around calling himself the human god, right? We got the demon god, dragon god, whatever, yada yada yada. We got the human god. It's like, who is this guy? Who's this idiot? Why can't we see him? What's this little dreamscape? Why is he talking to Rudeus in his old body, right? And he's giving him advice. It's like, well, obviously Rudeus shouldn't follow it, but then he follows it, and it genuinely helps him. Like, the advice is genuinely good. And then you're like, okay, do we trust him? And it's interesting because like the viewer experience kind of mirrors Rudeus, where at first you're like, I'm not going to trust him, but then like you kind of realize maybe he helps me, and that's like, okay, what's your advice? What's your advice, right?
All right. Look, listen. All I'm saying is, the thumbnail needs to be Rudeus standing there with Eris on the floor after drinking a Grimace shake.
Grimace shake. That's so true. It's been hilarious this recording. We're getting to the end of it, and we've been recording this in Discord, and both of our profile pictures are Grimace drinking a Grimace shake. And I just
so every time
during the recording, I just see our little.
I see that too a lot, and that's what I thought of.
It's really funny.
My first thought, I looked at it like a few seconds ago, and my first thought was, who would be the first person to drink a Grimace shake? And I was like, Eris.
Eris would totally drink a Grimace. Hitogami would be like, Rudeus, don't drink the Grimace shake. It'd be bad. It's bad for you.
And he'd say give it to Eris instead, and then he'd give it to Eris.
Say it'd be funny.
It'd be funny to lump out. Hey, go to this mountain
Rudeus
way.
drank the Grimace shake right before he met Orsted. That's what happened. Grimace sent Orsted after him.
Grimace sent Orsted.
Oh,
Yeah.
Gosh. This has been fun. Do you have any final little things to say on anything, Kyle, before we wrap up this little recording bonanza that we've done?
I'm just gonna say, I'm happy you got me to watch this series. It's made me
beyond thrilled that you genuinely enjoy it.
I know. And I'm happy. It's been a fun thing to discuss because it sucks when you try to get someone into your favorite things and they don't like them. Yeah, I mean, there's only so much you can do, but with Mushoku Tensei, right? Like I like it. I'm not even going to recap it of like just how much praise I've given it over these past like 2 hours or so. I had a thought. Hold on. I was going to say was it's made me come around to appreciate shows I would otherwise not really think twice on. Because I'll admit, if I weren't like given a nudge to watch it, to like the trading process or whatever, like if I didn't have like a extreme motivation, it probably would have been one where I started up and I'd have been like, I can't really say for certain if I would have dropped it or not, but I definitely don't think I would have been like I. It feels like viewing it and then viewing it again has given me a greater appreciation for things I otherwise wouldn't really think twice on. Like if I just watch a show, then I'm just like whatever on it. Like I'm still kind of through. I have to thank Mushoku Tensei for allowing me to like give me the opportunity to like be more critical and more like think more on shows I would otherwise not really think twice on. So for that, Mushoku Tensei, you have even more of my respect, and I'm happy I interacted with you. You are not just a dumb pedophile show. I think people need to sincerely sit down, shut up, and give you a fair chance.
There you go. Well, if you're this far in the video, obviously there's something that you like. Been sitting here for 2.5 hours.
There has to be.
There has to be. Subscribe, please, please. You've been talking to us for 2.5 hours, right? You gotta like something, right? Subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment telling us what your favorite part of Mushoku Tensei Season 1 is. And yeah, I just had a random thought while you were finishing up where I was like, my 1-year channel anniversary is on July 4th. I don't know, maybe I'll upload this then. Maybe this will be my 1-year anniversary. 2.5 hours of talking about my favorite series. That's probably what I'm gonna do. So I'll probably have a little recorded intro to properly introduce the year in front of this to kind of do it, because I did not think of that whenever we started recording. So thank you all for watching, especially if you're at this point. I truly appreciate it. I'm looking forward to Season 2. If you're this far in, I assume you are as well. And I hope you all will watch our weekly reviews of it. And I'm very much looking forward to it. We'll see you all then. Bye-bye.
Bye.